Across the UK, online and on DAB.
It's a new frontier in broadcasting. The Two Mics on Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the Two Mics on talkRADIO. We've managed to get to the end of the week without falling out, remarkably. Today's show is a feast of news, current affairs and human interest. For example, would you want an organ from a pig? And why have loads of giant pipes washed up on a Norfolk beach? And why you should sit next to the office creep at work, because it will be good for your career. You can tweet us at the Two Mics, at talkRADIO, and of course you can call us as well on 0344 499 1000. Coming up later on in the show, we're talking to an Elvis impersonator, and it's Porky Quiz Day as well, with the expert subject being Singapore, who celebrated 52 years of independence this very week. I'm predicting about 2 out of 10. You're listening to the Two Mics on Talk Radio.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Radio, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good afternoon to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good afternoon to you, Mike.
Me, yes.
Yes, that's right. Come to the end of the week, and as you quite rightly say, you know,
It's rushed by, hasn't it?
It's rushed by. Now, talking about rushing, I don't want any dilly-dallying at the end of the show, please.
Really?
I'm off at express speed today.
Are you?
Heading for Euston,
Euston?
right? Euston Station.
Euston, we have a problem.
Yeah, Euston, we have a problem. Porky's just arrived.
Yeah. Are you going first class?
Yes, of course, yes.
Are you?
I'm going up to
Your
Lime Street.
Final destination?
One shall never walk down Lime Street anymore.
Yeah, please don't sing. It's too early in the day.
The judgy guilty founder. Anyway, you know where that is.
Yeah.
And
Liverpool.
That's
Where
right.
are you staying?
The Crown Plaza.
All right, in
Down
case
on
anybody
the
wants to
docks.
go and find you.
Well, no, they won't find me. Don't worry. I have ways of. I'm a chameleon.
You're what?
A chameleon.
A chameleon?
Yeah, that's right.
All
Yeah.
Calm a chameleon.
Yeah. Most people would say.
What are
no,
you going to
you're
do
not,
Friday
you're a
night?
comedian.
Because, I mean, normally speaking, if
Yes.
you go to such a place,
Yes.
normally you've got me to kind of keep you out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So how are you going to keep yourself out of trouble?
By pursuing my lifelong belief in bladderation in moderation.
Indeed, yes. Have you got a place in mind for that?
Well, I have, but I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
But
'Cause are you not supposed to be performing at some kind of, Apple Fest or something like that? The thing that you've been telling everybody to turn up to.
yes, that's right.
And you've only just now revealed that you're not going to be there.
No, I'm not going to be there, but my Porky scratchings are there,
Yeah.
and because I'm not there, it doesn't matter. You can get in, and because I'm not there, the
Yeah.
compensatory factor is a free packet
So you get a free packet
of
of
Mike
Porky
Porky Parry
Where is
scratching.
this thing going on?
It's at the Cock and Bull in a place called Sutton, just on the edge of Stockbroker Belt.
It's a great name, that.
in Surrey. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Cock and Bull. Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
where you get all your
Unfortunate.
stories from has been suggested on
that's
Twitter
a bit
today.
harsh.
And also, of course, people have said, isn't it perfectly typical of the man of the people, as he calls himself,
Yes.
to organise for everybody to come and see him in a pub. Meanwhile, he's about 500 miles away
that's
in a
right,
hospitality suite.
Yes, I'm not in the hospitality suite.
You'll be in a hospitality suite for the Everton game, won't you?
Excuse me, I will be in the lounge that I deserve to be in for paying for my season ticket.
How much you
again.
pay for it?
I don't want to go into that because people think I'm boasting if I do.
Right. Are you saying it's not a hospitality suite?
It's not hospitality, I promise you.
Well, how's it not hospitality?
Because I've paid for a season ticket in a
you
lounge.
paid for the hospitality.
Well, yes, but it's not somebody... No, hospitality normally means that somebody else is
No.
paying for you being there.
Incorrect.
I'm paying for me being
No,
there.
if you work in the hospitality business, that means
Yes.
you work in that business which is catering for people who have paid massive amounts of money.
Right.
And some of them invite you along for
Yes.
free. Other times you pay for it yourself.
No, I tell you what the difference
showed.
is.
Don't forget, you put a
Yeah.
picture out of your
That's right.
season ticket arriving.
That's right.
And I'm fairly certain that inside of that
Yeah.
package,
Yeah.
it said hospitality.
No, I'm going to show it to you. What's it say on the front?
It says lounge member.
That's exactly what it is.
And it says a suite, which I'm not going to reveal, just
And
in
it says
case.
executive box, right?
Enter via turnstiles.
Yes.
What do you think? You're going to parachute in?
No,
Isn't that the
exactly.
normally way everybody enters?
No, some people enter in through the sort of VIP area.
Oh, so
but
it's not VIP then?
Well, of course it is, yeah.
Well, why aren't you entering via the VIP area?
Because I'm a man of the people.
So actually you go through there with the great unwashed.
No, you don't. No, there's no such thing as turnstiles. It's what it is now. Is this card is
Right.
put onto a reader, and then these sort
Well,
of
there's still a
perspex
turnstile.
doors. No, perspex
Really?
doors slide back, and then you go through and they slide again. I don't.
Well, that's a modern turnstile, isn't it?
I haven't been to a turnstile for about.
Yeah, but it's
30
a modern
years.
turnstile. That's what they do.
Well,
they
I
have
wouldn't
them.
know. I wouldn't know.
They have them in
because,
offices all over London.
You know, in those parts of the ground where it used to say 5 shillings for standing, I never went through them anyway. You know what I mean? They
Oh,
were
yeah.
iron turnstiles. Now, that means that tomorrow, of course, we'll be doing the warm-up show on Talk Sport.
Yes, we will.
Which is our sister station.
It is indeed.
And
From 10 o'clock.
From 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
you will be here.
I will be here.
I will be up there.
You'll be up there.
And then at 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
our millions of listeners will have to be nimble with their fingertips, will they not?
Why is that?
Well, aren't we still doing the second half of the show on a different station?
Yeah, but not at 1 o'clock, though, because we'll be finished.
No, what did I say?
You said 1
No,
o'clock.
I meant 11 o'clock. Sorry, 11 o'clock, didn't I? We start at 10.
No, this is a red letter week for us, or perhaps a blue letter week in your
certainly
case,
is.
because not only have we been on Talk Radio all week, but then we're on Talk Sport for a bit tomorrow, and then we're on Talk Sport 2 for a
We
while.
are on TalkSport 2.
So we're single-handedly kind of keeping this place afloat.
We certainly are, yeah. I think
tremendous.
next week we should do a music show on Virgin. And
Actually, we'd have asked for a show on Virgin. Whatever happened to that?
I don't know.
Because they gave Ian Lee a show on Virgin.
Did they?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I've seen their figures.
Yeah.
They should give us a show.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
Well, I'm only being honest.
Yes, no, absolutely right. And then, of course, we will be performing this weekend. Late on Sunday night.
We will indeed,
on our sister station.
Yeah, that's another one, yeah. Can we get over this whole where we're going to be next kind of conversation?
I like people to know.
I'm more excited about your show that you're doing next week here on Talk Radio on your own.
Yeah, fantastic, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Because as we've been saying to people, we need them to we need lots of people to ring in so that you don't just go off on some mad rant about Everton or about pig's hearts or about your own heart or about any of the other mad subjects that you talk about quite frequently.
Most people say to me when I meet them in the street, you know, if only Mike Graham didn't talk so much and take up so much airtime, it'd be a much better show. So we'll be able to test that theory next week.
How about this from Chris? It's a great start to the Friday show. Porky says, I'm getting a pig's heart. MG says to go with your pig's head.
That's really nice, isn't it?
That was quite funny, I have to say.
No, it wasn't funny.
Even though you're not supposed to laugh at your own jokes.
It was a pathetic and crass reference to the fact that for the last 13 years I've been battling extreme circumstances.
Well, only
in my
1/3 of
health.
your heart works, right, according to you. Although I've got evidence to suggest it's 49%. So if you got a pig's heart, right, as a replacement, how would that work? Because presumably the reason that your heart doesn't work properly is because of the valves going in and out of it rather than the actual heart itself. I'm sorry, am I boring you?
No, you're not boring me at all. No, I don't want to get quite into that, but what I can tell you
You don't want to get into it. That's the whole point of the story.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to get into my particular circumstances, but the reason why, this has come up before, this idea of using pigs' organs and all that.
Well,
but can I tell you now?
They have implanted a few people with them, haven't they?
No.
Haven't they done it as an experimental thing?
No, not to my
knowledge. I'm
knowledge.
sure there was a story of a guy that got a pig's heart.
We think now, we in the world of needing a donor organ, right? We recipients, as we know.
So you're the only guy, presumably, with an organ donation card, but yours is in only as opposed to out.
No. And we think we could be as little as 2 years away from a pig to human organ transplant.
Yes.
2 years.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
There's 6,000 people in this country waiting for an organ transplant, okay? Demand far outstrip supply, obviously. And
what sorts of organs are we talking about then?
You'd be talking about kidneys, probably, to start off with.
Okay.
You'd be talking, hopefully, about hearts, because I know this sounds stupid, but the heart's not the most complex organ in the body.
No.
That would be the brain
That doesn't sound stupid at all.
or
you
the
don't
liver.
have a pig's brain, do you?
No, exactly. I mean, a brain obviously is very complex. A liver is very complex because it has to clean fluids in your body. A heart is actually a pumping device.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because a pig's. We are actually going to be speaking to Ian McConnell, who is a professor of veterinary science in Cambridge.
Yes.
So he may know a little bit more about this. But what I'm thinking is that if a pig's liver has not been performing the sorts of functions it would need to perform inside a human body, it wouldn't be any use to you.
No, exactly.
Because it wouldn't have any kind of ability to cleanse in the way that the human liver does.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I mean?
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's an absolutely fascinating. I mean, you know, much as these days when somebody says, "Oh, I had my hip done."
Yeah.
Well, I mean, 120 years ago, if somebody's hip went and they'd had it,
They just shoot you.
Yes, that's right. They virtually would. And to be able, you know, these days to say, well, it's as, you know, getting a new hip is as easy as changing your jacket or the colour of your jacket or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's amazing when you think about it.
But there are worries about these kinds of things because as much as we like the idea of technological advance, particularly in medicine, some people are worried that there might be viruses that would cross over from the animal area to the human area, which is always a bit of a worry.
Well, of course it is.
So Frankenstein medicine time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have to think about swine flu and Ebola and HIV and all that, all cases where the virus of the animal was in close contact with the human.
Yeah.
That's part of the whole of the research. You're absolutely right.
Right.
But we're hoping that, you know, if they're making predictions of 2 years away from an actual transplant, that a lot of that has been dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you thinking you're going to put your name down on the list then?
No, I
as
wouldn't.
one of the first sort of organ recipients for a pig?
No, I wouldn't. If I was after a heart transplant now, I'd probably turn it down because I think at my age, I think it's unfair. There'd be somebody younger who could take it. I live okay with what I've got.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be very mean-spirited of me to say, give me a new heart when I'm getting on okay with the one I've got.
Very uncharacteristically generous of you.
I can't live a full life, obviously, you know, like I would like to.
You do all right.
Well,
I
yes,
can't
but-
live a full life.
Well, mass bladderation used to be a great sport.
Right.
But I don't do it anymore because...
Well, that's what you say.
Well, no,
I think there may be evidence to the contrary,
no.
to be honest.
No.
But we better not go into that.
No, you can't go talking like that.
Now, how about this from
Like
Roberto,
insulting,
who says, guys, please, can I get a shout-out as it's my 47th birthday today?
Right.
Thanks for all the fun and frolics.
Yep.
His name is Roberto.
Roberto,
Yeah.
happy 47th, my friend. It's a great age.
It is.
And, of course, that figure's come up again.
It is, because it is the most frequently occurring random number.
That's right, number
Extraordinary.
47.
Number 47.
I would say, what's his name, Roberto, which means
Roberto.
he's probably continental, probably Mediterranean, so follows the Mediterranean
Very
diet.
possibly.
I would say, Roberto, you have got a minimum of 35 years left.
That's nice of you.
Yes.
Very kind.
Okay.
We are the two mics.
We
This
are.
is Talk Radio. Coming up, we're going to talk some more about pig organs with Ian McConnell, a professor from Cambridge University.
Yes.
The two mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on, of course, it is time for the Porky quiz. And because of the I would say, historic week for Singapore,
Yes.
52nd years of celebration of
Yes.
the independence from Malaysia.
That's right.
We've given you a quiz on Singapore.
Yes,
where,
that's
of course,
fine.
you have been.
I have.
And, of course, as you've said before, you're a bit of an expert on it. So
I am, yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the questions are like.
Yes, okay. Former colonial sort of institutions.
Indeed.
I do have a deep knowledge of.
Do you?
Of
Very
hiding,
good.
Of hiding.
I'm still predicting 2 out of 10.
Yeah,
Here's
sure.
one from Graham who says, Porky's in Liverpool, Mike Graham's in London,
Mm.
so when Porky starts spouting rubbish, MG can disconnect him.
Well,
That's very possible. The line may come down
No.
in the midst of our broadcast.
No, it won't. So the line comes down the middle of broadcast, pal. I'll be back here quicker than you know what has hit you.
Is that right?
And we'll be taking control once again.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I've got
Good.
a message here from Court Jester,
Right.
who says, this guy has dropped out of my charity show tonight because of an Arsenal football match. Is this acceptable? I'm not sure who he's talking about, so
No,
I don't
don't
know whether we can give you a judgment on that, I'm afraid.
Or any background to it. By the way, listen, I came across a survey which I think I should point out to you because you have been put on a little bit of weight recently. I think it's probably because you gave up smoking.
I think it is, yeah.
But the point is that the problem is that the average Briton in an office environment grabs 13 different snacks a day.
Really? 13 different snacks?
Yeah.
See, I don't really snack, which is the thing. I think you're right to say that I've put a bit of weight on, and I think it is largely down to the fact that I've stopped smoking.
Yeah.
People have told me that I've been drinking more because I don't smoke anymore.
Well, maybe you have.
Because when I was, if I was in a bar or something, or
Yes.
even when I was at home,
Yes.
you'd pop outside for a fag.
Sure.
And if you do that sort of 3 or 4 times an hour,
Yes.
that's maybe the equivalent of about 10, 15 minutes outside.
Yeah, but it's
where you're not drinking.
No, that's right. But it's well known that when people give up smoking, they do put weight on.
Yes.
Because they have to sort of replace the nicotine surge with something else.
Well, yeah, I think also your appetite increases because
Yeah, it
one of
does,
the
yeah.
reasons a lot of young women smoke, for
Yeah.
example, is that it's an appetite suppressant.
That's right,
So
yeah.
they don't eat so much. They
That's
don't feel
right.
like they're so hungry.
Appetite suppress them by getting lung cancer. It's a weird old way
Well,
of
it's
thinking,
not
isn't it?
exactly how you think about it at the time.
No, I suppose
if you're
not.
more concerned about, it's why all these models smoke.
That's right, yeah.
Like Victoria's Secret models who can't afford to eat anything.
Yeah.
Otherwise they look as if they're bulging out
Anyway,
of their bikinis.
it says here, these people must work in pretty high-tech places. It says, on average, they raid the fridge, the office fridge, 8 times a day, and food cupboards 5 times a day.
Is this assuming that in the office fridge they've got stuff which has actually been provided for them?
And is edible.
That doesn't happen here,
That's
does
been
it?
there for like 3.5 weeks.
You have to go and buy your own stuff here.
You do. It says cheese is the most popular choice, then cold meats, chocolates, fruit, and in fifth place, vegetables.
Vegetables.
Well, I mean, what kind of a workplace has all that available? I suppose it have to be somewhere like Amazon, will it? Where
Well, when
they
my
have,
daughter
like,
works,
huge new offices and all that.
they have loads of stuff for them, so they don't want them to leave the building.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
I'll tell you more about that coming up because we now have a professor
Great.
Who wants to talk to us. Professor Ian McConnell, who's a professor of veterinary science in Cambridge.
Yes.
He's going to tell us about this idea of possibly getting pigs' organs transplanted into humans within the next 2 years. Professor McConnell, a very good afternoon to you.
Hi, hello, good afternoon.
Hi,
Thank
Prof.
you very much for joining us. I understand that you have at least said this in the past, that there might be sort of ethical concerns with this this technological advance.
Yeah, well, the first thing I'd say is I hate to dash your hopes, but I wouldn't say in the next few years. I think this is the first step in a very long journey, and they've overcome one of the hurdles. There are 2 other major hurdles to overcome. before this would become a clinical reality.
Okay, so tell us about the one that has been overcome, and the other two.
Well, the first issue is that biosecurity is a big issue, and that is that the organ transplant, if it's from an animal, provides the opportunity for a species jump in the transmission of cancer-inducing viruses from the pig organ into man.
Right.
And you've got to remember that when animal viruses jump species, there are quite colossal problems. I mean, BSE, SARS, avian flu, and the Ebola epidemic should leave one in no doubt about the drastic consequences of cross-species jumps of animal pathogens into man. Mm-hmm. Now, what they've done with this technology is eliminated part of the risk of retroviruses, that's cancer viruses, jumping from the transplanted organ into man by inactivating, using gene editing techniques, by inactivating the capacity of the viruses to be available for infecting humans. So to that extent, it's a promising step, but it's by no means anywhere near a clinical reality. The other issue, which is probably bigger than this, is the whole issue of immunologic rejection of the transplanted organ. That really is a problem that is yet to be solved. And although there have been attempts at using immunosuppression and things like that, the immunologic rejection of tissue and recognition, the human immune system was built to recognize foreign antigens, and the pig would certainly be a target for immune attack. And that's got to be overcome as well. And then, of course, there are the ethical issues as to whether you would want to go ahead and do this in humans, given that there are alternative technologies on the horizon, such as stem cell transfer and so on.
Yeah,
so
sure.
A great piece of molecular biology, but feet on the ground first.
Sure. Professor, on the, the rejection problem you've just mentioned, I mean, wasn't that as big a problem transplanting a human heart into another human, which held back that process for 20 or 30 years? So if we got over that eventually, then surely there's got to be confidence that you can get over the same problem of rejection if you put a pig's organ into a human being.
Well, first of all, pigs are antigenically quite different from human organs. Yeah. When you're transplanting within a species, between humans, as you do in blood transfusion, it's an issue, but it's not a big issue. When you go from a foreign animal into humans, it's a huge issue to be solved, and you cannot control immune responses to the plethora of pig antigens that you're introducing.
But, and also, at what point, Professor, is the transplant kind of ordered, if you like? I mean, how do you know when the pig is ready to give up its organ? I mean, is it before or after the kind of, it gets sliced up for sausages and bacon and all that? I mean, how does it work?
Well, I think the plan, which they have, as I understand, is to have pigs which are farmed for this purpose. And they will be euthanized in the proper way, and animal organs would be removed.
Oh, I see. So there would be no conflagration between the sort of food chain and organs, as it were?
No. There's no issue there.
It bred for organ donation.
That sounds a bit cruel, that, isn't it? Isn't that a bit cruel, just breeding animals for organ donation?
Well, I mean, animals
I'm not
are bred...
asking you, I'm asking him.
They're bred for coats, aren't they? And
well, hang on, I'm asking the Professor.
Yeah, well, you're getting into the ethical issues of how we use animals. And that's not what this paper's about.
Professor, is it true that we've already put heart valves into human beings made of pig tissue?
Yeah, well, heart valves and pig corneal transplants have been used, but they're inert tissues. They're they're not a living organ like a kidney is, with all its complex neuroendocrine interactions and nervous control.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean it's a piece of tissue.
It's simply a piece of tissue that acts as a scaffold, really, as opposed to an organ where you've got real close living cell-to-cell contact, between stem cells and a long-term surviving kidney, if it were to survive. So I think it's a different consideration altogether.
You might find with the way that the public debating scenario is going in this country that you'll be getting people asking for pigs to actually carry organ donation cards. The way things are going.
Well, there'll be a pigs' rights movement.
Pigs' rights.
I mean, I don't quite understand the.
I'm against it. To be honest.
I don't understand the ethical issues because if you can save a human being's life, and I'm not being funny here, but I mean we do assume that we are the superior race on Earth. Shouldn't that be accepted as part of the human survival chain?
I think what you're talking about here is a potential medical treatment, and all medical treatments are under very severe ethical consideration and constraints. Yes. And this is one which would fall well within that, and has in fact in the past been debated quite extensively.
Yeah, indeed.
And the ethical issues have to be addressed, and they would be addressed.
But the thing is, there are still 6,000 patients waiting for an organ transplant, so it's they who I think about.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, well, we all think about them, but the last thing you want to do is take a given problem and make it worse.
Yeah, sure, I agree.
Yeah,
with
don't worry, Professor. This is the same guy that only 2 days ago was urging that we wipe out 30,000 polar bears in case they come attacking us.
No, not all 30,000.
So he's not all bleeding heart, as it were.
Not
if you
all
pardon
30,000.
the phrase. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Ian McConnell there, Professor of Veterinary Science. Porky there trying to give his sort of kinder and gentler side.
Yes.
Saying that you care so much about the 6,000 people on the trial.
Why
you couldn't care less about them.
And so you don't. You don't care about people whose lives are ruined and bedridden by the fact that they're unable to move because some organ in their body is completely knackered. Do you know what it's like to be confined to a hospital bed?
I do. If it's self-inflicted
with a heart that
because you got
doesn't
bladerated for 35 years, then I think it's your own fault.
Yeah,
and I don't think you should be in any way raising animals in order to help yourself survive. I think it's an absolutely shocking and fantastically Frankenstein-like way of operating.
You ignorant oaf.
Thank you very much indeed.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Hey! The sun goes down like a bad dream. You end up tight, gotta let off steam. They say they can break you again and again. If life is a radio, turn up to 10. These are crazy.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. Coming up a little bit later on, we will be discussing a great many things, including that massive pipe that's shown up in off the coast of Norfolk.
What on earth is that all about?
Well, I don't know. I can't actually explain it to you because
so
they're 1,574 feet long.
Yes.
Several of these pipes have suddenly landed on a beach in Norfolk.
And you can walk through it. It's 8 foot across.
I mean, if I was superstitious or suspicious in any way, I'd think that it was some kind of delivery device for something.
Well,
it's not just. I mean, supposedly the official explanation is it's fallen off the back of a ship.
Yeah.
But I mean, what size of a ship could carry those kind of pipes?
Well, there are ships longer than that pipe, obviously, but it must be a massive ship. But I tell you what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
When nobody in this world had ever heard of Saddam Hussein, the Americans suddenly published a picture, a satellite picture, of the world's biggest gun.
Oh, yeah.
Which had been
built.
built.
The super gun,
that's right, yeah. Which had been built on the side of a mountain in Iraq.
Yes.
And it was designed to launch a huge missile into Iran.
Yeah.
Because Iraq and Iran were at war.
Yes.
And when the Americans studied it all, and then the Western world thought what it was, they thought, how could this possibly have been built?
Yeah.
And the thing is, Iraq for years had been ordering pipes the size of the one we're talking about for the petrochemical industry.
Right.
But in fact, those pipes were never, ever wanted for the petrochemical industry to build this gigantic gun.
What, so you think the people in Norfolk are building some kind of super gun?
No, but how do we know it wasn't on its way to North Korea, this ship? You know what I mean?
Very true.
From some Scottish engineering works or something.
Well, I find it very odd indeed. We're going to try and get to the bottom of it. We might be able to speak to somebody up in Norfolk a little bit later on.
Yep.
As you've often said, nobody ever goes there. They'll be starting to go there now to figure out what's going on. Also, speaking of America and North Korea, I see that Donald Trump has now tweeted out that they're locked and loaded. I mean, does he think he's actually in some kind of Lethal Weapon movie?
He must do, yeah.
You know.
Locked and loaded.
And also, what's the point of tweeting people in North Korea? They're not on Twitter, are they? Most of them.
Well, when Communist Russia was going on, the only way that they could find out what was happening in the Western
Kim
world.
Jong-un is at Supreme Leader, right?
Kim Jong-un, Supreme Leader.
Yeah. Now, how about this from Bear, who says, why has Mike Parry decided to say Professor and being more respectful and not Prof to this chap? Is he hankering after a free heart?
Yeah, it would be, yeah. If there was a heart going. And
I thought you said you were going to be willing to sacrifice yourself in order to give a heart to somebody more deserving, which is pretty much almost anybody.
Well, you know what I would do? If they suddenly said, look, we want the first person to come forward and take a pig's heart, I'd probably volunteer to be the guinea pig.
I
because...
see what you did there.
Sorry?
I see what you did there.
What do you mean?
Guinea pig.
Yeah, guinea pig, that's right, absolutely, you got it, yeah. Because I think I would have responsibility as a seasoned would-be recipient of an organ. Sorry, what's your problem?
Can you be a seasoned would-be anything?
Well, of course you can.
Seasoned would-be recipient.
It's only mind over matter, which has kept me out of the transplant wards over all these years.
that right?
You know that, don't you?
Well, you're the only
Most
person...
other people would have folded by
Well, you're
now.
the only person, as I've said to you many times, who was taken off the transplant list
Yes.
voluntarily.
Yes.
Because most people either die because they can't get a transplant, or get a transplant and die because it doesn't work, or get a transplant and it works. They don't just say, "Oh, I don't need a transplant anymore."
Well, I had to because my life was passing me by.
Well, yeah, but you didn't need one then.
You know, my brilliant broadcasting career,
Yes.
had already been sort of attacked.
More news on that next week, I
Yes,
suspect.
exactly, yeah,
You know, have
that's
you got any
right.
guests lined up for this show of yours, by the way?
Oh, I can't talk to you about
Eh?
that. I'm not talking to you about that.
You better not be nicking any of my mates.
I've been working on it for a while.
Eh? And I don't want to be bothered on holiday either.
No, you won't be
I don't want the
bothered.
producers ringing me up going, Porky's desperate for you to come on.
You must be joking.
I'm not going to give you any
Do
forwarding
you know
address.
what? Do you know what? I would rather throw myself off Blackfriars Bridge,
Really?
which is just round the corner.
I'd rather
from
you did.
Talksport
I'd rather you
Towers
did
here,
that as well. Funnily enough.
than make a plea to anybody to get you on the show.
Is that right?
The day I'm desperate enough to want you to include you in a show that I'm doing, man, I will retire to the Northumberland coast.
What's the show called?
And swim the North Sea to Denmark.
What's this show called?
What's it called?
This show, yeah, the one we're doing now.
What do you mean?
What's it called?
It's called The Two Mics
The Two
on
Mics.
Talk Radio.
Yeah, there you go. But
Good.
you'd rather throw yourself off Blackfriars Bridge than do a show with me.
Yeah, of course I would, yeah.
Well, what are you sitting here for?
No.
Get out there.
No, you idiot.
Get yourself off the Blackfriars Bridge and you can hang off it.
When we redesign the show next week to
Yeah.
Mike Parry's what is it? No, it's not even mid-morning, is it? Mike Parry's...
It's going to be brilliant. Mid-afternoon.
That's right. Mike Parry's a lunchtime special on Talk
Mike
Radio.
Parry's
okay.
miasmic.
Hang on, what time's it go? 1
mission.
till 4. What is
1 till 4, yeah.
1 till
Don't
4.
forget, you have to be in for about midday, right?
Yes.
Which you didn't manage to do today. Also,
Well,
I
that's because
believe
I had things to do.
on
You
Monday,
know that. You
on
see,
Monday,
another cruel jibe.
on
you know.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
When you were sort of corresponding with the producers,
Yes.
and you told them, "We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m."
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, I thought we were doing 10 till 1. I was only
wondering why
later
we-
I found out.
yeah.
Anyway, listen, enough of that. I want to talk to you about important issues.
Okay.
Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a leadership test, okay?
Okay, all right. we haven't got a lot of time for this. I hope you don't need a lot of time.
No,
do
we don't need a lot of time.
Okay.
Right. You're a boss, okay? You've got,
Yeah.
you got a team of people working for
you?
you.
Yes, well, I certainly have been in the past.
Right, question 1. How
Yeah.
do you measure your success?
How do I measure my success?
Yes.
How much money I'm making.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
What about how well you're improving the careers of those working for you?
I don't care about that.
Right, I see. Right, second question.
Are you sure you've prepared this
Yes,
properly?
I have, yes.
Yeah.
Where would you go
Uh-huh.
to develop and advance your career?
What?
Your career.
Where would I go?
Yeah.
America.
No, it means where would you go within the organisation in which you work?
Well, whenever I was asked by people who were above
Yeah.
me doing what they used to call
Yeah.
assessments of how my career was going,
Yeah.
whenever they said, "What job would you like to do?"
Yes.
I'd always say, "I'd like to do your job."
Okay. Well, the answer to that one,
Yeah.
right? The answer from the business, the Harvard Business College manual.
Yeah.
You will go and ask your boss how they view your strengths and weaknesses, so you can address your own problems
Oh, yeah.
and build on those strengths.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
The answer to the first question, by the way, was knowing what matters to your boss
Yeah.
means you can focus your efforts accordingly. Feeling like you are adding value means you will feel more
Really?
satisfied at work, not
Yeah.
how much money you pay.
Really?
So
Well,
that's
so-
1 and 2 you failed
Yeah,
on.
you think I failed, do you?
Yeah, now-
I'll tell you something. When I was the leader of men and women,
Yeah.
when I was running various different businesses, right, I had a great deal of success, actually. People enjoyed the fact
Okay.
that I treated
Good.
them with respect. People enjoyed the fact that they liked
Yeah.
coming to work
Yeah.
and working for me. They liked my kind of cavalier attitude,
Right, okay.
my anti-authoritarian stance.
Okay.
And they very much enjoyed still hanging out with me after I left the business.
Right.
Unlike you, who have no friends left from newspapers because you treated them all so disgracefully.
Yeah. Right, here's the third question, please. How do
Last
you...
one.
No, it's not. How do you measure your own progress in work?
How?
Yes.
Money.
You see, again, the answer is ask for monthly one-on-one assessments to discuss the feedback from your
Okay.
bosses on your
All right,
development
then.
and share any good ideas
You got
you have.
mad.
Hang on, and share any good ideas you have with other workers. Here's your fourth
Yeah.
question. What do you regard as a promotion option and how will you go about securing it?
Hey?
What do you regard as a promotion option? How will you go about securing it?
Well, I probably did a show on my own for more money.
See, it's all about money. The answer to that one is you should be explicit about your desire to be promoted and tell this to your bosses. Ask what you need to do to ensure it happens. Measure your progress so you can put a case together. And here's your final question.
Did you pick this up downstairs, by the way, from
no.
the TalkSport Management Manual?
No, this is the Harvard Business Manual.
Are you sure?
Right, what training can you offer in terms of support and development to those who work for you?
Well, just watch what I do and learn.
It's just simple as that.
Yeah.
The proper answer is, once you are clear on your weak areas and can show any progress, ask your boss again for external training that will help you reach your goals to pass those goals on to those who look up to you.
Okay.
It'll be a win-win for both you, your employer, and those who answer to you. See, you couldn't get any of those right.
Well,
your answer to 4 questions was, give me more money.
Yeah.
How much money am I making? what an absolutely Philistinic view to your profession.
Rubbish.
Philistinic.
I have absolute and utter disdain for that kind of rubbish.
No.
Because I was part of that whole scheme when I worked in various different places, and I had absolutely no time for it. I'll tell you why coming up soon.
You are useless.
This is Talk Radio.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Fooling around with my chances on the danger line. I'll cross that bridge when I find it. Another day to make my stand. Oh, high time is no time for deciding if I should find a helping hand. Oh, why don't you use it?
Duran.
Yeah, Duran.
I didn't know you were a fan of Duran.
Well, do you know what? I never have been in the past.
Uh-huh.
And it's amazing. Last night I was just surfing a few of the channels, and I came across, is it BBC 4 showing an old Top of the Pops or something like that?
Yes, they do.
Do they?
Quite
Right,
amusing,
okay.
that's actually to watch
Yeah,
because
it is.
it
The old
takes you back,
fashions
doesn't
and
it?
all that. It certainly does, yeah. I mean, so in 84, believe it or not, I probably only just met you.
Yeah.
I think I met you in 83.
Yeah.
So I didn't see much about it in those years.
Yeah.
Because we were in America
Yes.
mostly. I didn't even. By the
Well,
way,
that was kind of the launch of MTV as well.
Yeah, it was,
So the
yeah.
music video kind of burst onto the scene.
I totally agree. I'd never heard Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax, which was
Really?
one of the biggest singles in the world, for 18 months after it came out.
Right.
I never heard it in America. I
Right.
only heard it the first time when I came back here in about 86 or something.
Okay, and they got banned, I think, in Britain, didn't it?
I think it did get banned, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point of my story is,
Yeah.
right, I saw this and I thought, crikey, that's Simon Le Bon. What an active frontman he is. I've
Yeah.
never seen anything like it. This guy was, leaping off stages onto other stages,
Yeah.
climbing up scaffolding, spinning around,
Yeah.
throwing his microphone up, twiddling it. And I thought, that's the best I've seen since Rod Stewart.
Really?
Frankly, he was brilliant.
Okay.
And he was singing
well, you've
the
only
song.
just discovered this.
Well, yes, I have, because I never knew him. But the other point about it was, when I had a look then, on my information device about Duran, where did they come from?
Yeah.
In 1979,
Yeah.
which was my last year in provincial newspapers,
Uh-huh.
I was working for the Birmingham Evening Mail.
Right.
And we used to go after work sometimes. I was then a kind of, rising executive on the news desk,
On which news desk?
The Birmingham Evening Mail.
They
news
have
desk.
executives on the news desk at the Birmingham Evening Mail,
Yes, they do. Yeah, quite a lot of them, yeah.
Were they
So-
making double figures at that point?
yeah, probably, something like that. So we'd go to a place called the Rum Runner
Oh, yeah.
at Five Ways in Birmingham, and pretty active city, Birmingham. But I remember when we got in there one night, drinking cheap champagne, all that kind of stuff, I'm sure I saw Duran perform their first ever show
Possibly.
because they came from Birmingham and it said they appeared at the Rum Runner.
Okay.
And so would that make sense? Because this was Top of the Pops 84. 5 years later, they're top
I
of the
suppose
charts.
so.
with
I
the
mean, they were
Reflex.
kind of post-punk,
Yeah,
sort of
couldn't
new
take 5
romantic
years.
type era.
Couldn't take
You do
5
know
years.
as well, of course, that Pete Rudge, our good friend
Rudgy,
from New York,
yeah.
who used to be the Rolling Stones tour manager.
Yes.
He ended up managing Duran.
Did he?
In one of their second kind of incarnations. This would have
Incarnations,
been
yeah.
around about the late 80s, I think.
Yeah, I see.
Because I remember he came into Costello's one night.
Right.
And clutching a whole load of tickets in his hand.
Okay.
And we were like, oh, Reggie, how you
Yeah,
doing? He's
yeah.
like, oh, because you know how he'd basically been declared bankrupt.
A
he
number
was,
of times, yeah.
Well, it was the Internal Revenue Service that went after him.
Yeah.
Because he'd been the tour manager for the Stones. And they decided, the revenue, that he owed them $1 million.
Yes.
And so rather than helping him out, Mick Jagger and the boys just went, yeah, well, cheerio,
Yeah,
Pete,
yeah,
see you
see,
later.
Pete, ta-ra, mate.
So he had to actually hand over $1 million.
Crikey.
And he was able to find it, amazingly.
Yeah.
But it meant that they also said, because he was now bankrupt, that
Yeah.
he wasn't allowed to write a cheque unless they co-signed it.
Right.
So he couldn't even write a check.
What,
for
unless
his...
the Stones co-signed
No. This was unless the tax people co-signed
Oh,
it.
I see.
No, the Stones actually kind of left him rather high and dry. Didn't
So he couldn't go and buy a new car unless
No.
somebody from Inland Revenue was standing next to him in the showroom.
He couldn't pay his monthly rent unless
Wow.
the Inland Revenue
Bad
co-signed the cheque.
Bad news.
So he'd had to reinvent himself, and he'd reinvented himself as the tour manager for Duran Duran.
Right, okay.
And so he handed me a bunch of tickets and was like, do you want to come up? They're doing a show tonight. I think it was up in a place, I can't remember, somewhere in Midtown.
Yeah.
But it was quite a sort of, not massive venue,
No,
but, you know,
right, yeah.
it was like their second time around.
On the
And they were
combat
very
show.
good.
Yeah.
I have to say, they were very, very good
No,
indeed.
they...
But of course, I walked in and they were carrying, the sort of comatose teenage girls out.
Oh, I see.
Because they're all fainting at the front of the stage.
Well, this is a point, you see. I watched a bit of the docudrama on Duran Duran, I found, and apparently they, when they were all single men, after a concert, they had a special arrangement where they always wanted a room above the stage door with a window, and there would be 200 or 300 young ladies, all screaming and shouting outside after the show, and they would actually pick them by choice and send their men down, that one, to invite them to the after-show party, you know what I mean?
Well, I had quite a few indecent proposals made to me while I was walking around in the back end of the show.
Right, because you were backstage with
Because I
Roger,
had a backstage pass.
I see, yeah.
And people were asking if I could get them backstage.
Yeah.
And offering to do all sorts of things. They wanted me to do that.
Really, yeah.
But obviously I didn't.
Yeah, it's disgraceful.
Now,
he had a yacht as well, called the Drum.
He famously turned it over, didn't he?
No, he nearly drowned.
That's what I mean.
He nearly drowned. He went on some transatlantic race and smashed into an oil drum, I think.
He was big into it,
Smashed
and
his
the only
boat.
thing that saved his life, I think, was the fact that there was a kind of cockpit type arrangement.
Yes.
Because the Pope capsized.
That's right.
And he was able to stay alive. Because,
Something like that.
Because he was able to keep his head above the water.
It was something like
Quite
that.
a character.
Yeah. Interesting.
How about this from somebody who doesn't give a name? They've texted in to us here, and if you want to text in, of course, what you've got to do is text the word talk, and send your message to 87222.
Yeah.
And that'll cost you 25 pence plus your normal charges.
That's right.
There's never been an ethical question about killing a pig for our gorgeous sausages, has there? So why waste the rest of the body or its organs?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the reason
that's
there's
a very good question.
Well, no, the reason there's an ethical question is because they're not actually using the pig that we cook for sausages
in the food chain.
In terms of the organs, they're going to actually raise pigs.
Yes, they are.
Just to slaughter them to take their organs. I think that's wrong.
Well, hang on. People raise animals to slaughter them to give us coats, like mink coats.
Well, no, but that's not now. That is now very much frowned upon.
It's not anymore.
Yeah, it is.
I think the fur lobby's gone back the other way.
No, it's not.
Women now, no.
When was the last time you saw a woman wearing a mink coat in London?
Well, I personally haven't,
right.
knowingly.
Because women don't. They wear fake fur now.
No, they don't. Honestly, I tell you, Mike, I'm being serious here. My reading of the situation is that now it has become acceptable again to wear fur.
I don't think so.
And that women do. No, I think I'm right.
I don't know where you're getting that from.
I think I'm right.
How about this one from Alan? He says, next week, 1 till 4 in the afternoon, the lunatic takes over the asylum.
Well, only from Wednesday.
Only on Talk Sport. I'll be here Monday and Tuesday. Now, how about this from Dave? He sent a lovely picture of his dog.
Yes.
He says, any chance for a birthday shout-out for my dog, Bo, who is 6 today. Isn't that a nice dog?
Well, hang on. Do we actually have birthday shout-outs for dogs?
Well, we do now.
Okay.
Why
Bo
not?
is 6. Yeah, lovely dogs. It's a Labrador.
It looks like it's got Labrador in it, certainly.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, Bo, I know you can't hear me because you're a dog and dogs can't hear what humans are saying, particularly on the radio.
That's not true.
But, Bo...
That is actually not true.
Let me give you a doggy greeting. Woof, woof.
Thank you very much. You can do... Maybe you get some dogs on the show next week.
That's right, yeah.
And Glenn says this, on the podcast today, any chance of a happy birthday to my son Dalton, who is 13 today. He's also off on his first holiday abroad.
Oh, wow. Where's he going?
He doesn't say.
Right, Dalton, age 13.
Yeah.
Have a great life, my boy. 13 is a great age, and enjoy your holiday enormously. And can I tell you, you may be named after a very famous commercial magazine of years ago called Dalton's Weekly.
Dalton's Weekly,
Yeah.
Wasn't that like a sort of exchange and mark
Yeah,
type
it
thing,
was, yeah,
where you
that's
would
right.
buy stuff?
Yeah,
a bit like eBay.
Yeah, you could buy... Well, it wasn't like eBay. You get interesting things on eBay. You could buy, steel shelving for your garage.
Well, maybe you could buy some of these massive pipes that are washed up on the Norfolk beaches.
Yeah.
I mean, what will happen to that now? And let's just go back to that for a second, because if they discover that these pipes belong to somebody, do they have to return them?
No.
Because you know how things... Remember that year, I think it was some years ago now, down in Cornwall, one of those big container ships ran aground.
That's right.
And a load of cases full of motorbikes fell off and were swept onto the beach. And apparently there's some old ancient law which says that you can run down to the beach, you can grab the bike, and if you can find it and get it, you can keep it.
There are salvage laws, but I think the difficulty with this one is these are so huge that you'd need special lifting equipment, which I'm not sure you'd get near a beach in Norfolk, to take them where? And
Right.
how could you transport them on land? You couldn't.
Yes.
They're too huge. I mean, the ones we've seen are the length of like 15 double-decker buses.
Yeah, 1,574 feet.
Yeah, that's 500 yards.
500 yards.
Which is the length of, I'm just working this out, 4 football pitches.
Is it 4 football pitches?
Yeah, it is.
That's
yeah.
a long way.
That is a hell of a long way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed they haven't done more damage, to be honest. I
Well-
mean, because imagine if they'd swept into, say, I don't know, a harbour, or swept into...
Like Blackpool Golden Mile or something
well, yeah,
like that. Could have smashed it all up.
smashed into a sort of a
Yeah.
house that was sitting particularly adjacent
Well,
to the sea.
the reason why they wouldn't is because they would always sort of stop at low tide on the beach, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but that depends on, I mean, if there's high tide and, you've got some houses right next
High
to the
tide
sea.
and green grass.
High tide and green grass, there you go.
That's right.
Jim says, what a load of tosh Porky spouting about management, written by a Jobsworth who's never managed anything.
No, I think not. I think it's the management Bible that
Yeah.
I was referring to.
Yeah, but
It
let's
comes from Harvard
put
University.
it this way. Your
Yeah.
management techniques were not exactly those which would be constituted by anybody at Harvard, would
Why
they?
not? Why not?
Because I don't think they would be considered to be very successful.
Do you think anybody...
Your reputation as a manager
Yeah.
in the days when we were working in Fleet Street was like many other people's at that time, which was not particularly user-friendly.
Yes, well, it was that era. I mean, there was one chap that I used to shout at because I didn't think he was very good. I
Right.
thought he was idle. And he used to come in and steal a living. So I used to bark at him all the time,
Yeah, but you couldn't do that now.
No, you probably couldn't. But this guy was a really dour Scotsman. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He used to come in, mumble and sit there. And he was called what's called a copy taster. And all the copy taster had to do was watch every story that went down past his screen.
Yeah.
And then occasionally pipe up, oh, this is a good story.
Right.
But he never even did that because he couldn't tell what a good story was. He was useless.
So he just passed over everything. Is this
Yeah.
the same guy that when he was he reached the age of whatever it was that he
Yeah.
was given his sort of gold watch and cheerio?
Yeah.
He was given a dinner a voucher or something like that for the Savoy.
Yeah.
But he pronounced it wrongly and asked people where it was, and he thought it was called the Savoy.
The Savoy, no, I don't think it was him. I
Wasn't
don't think it was
him?
that stupid. But no, I'll tell you what it was. It was he was such a dour Scotsman, and so I used to bark.
Is
and
this
say,
like the guy that came up to you and said he still hated you?
Oh,
that
it's
thing?
great. I was going to say the very
was him.
first person. We had a reunion in the old Black Lubianka, the original Daily Express
That's
building.
right.
in
Yeah, I
Fleet
remember
Street.
that.
And it's now a bank. It's a
Yeah.
Japanese bank.
Jim,
But
his name was.
His name is. Well, I wasn't going to say it. His name is Jim. But they invited everybody back. Anyway, against my better judgment, I went because certain people said come along.
Well,
People
we both went.
Yeah, we
didn't
both went. Oh, did we?
Because we
Both
thought,
went,
well,
yeah.
if we were both going to go, that would be something.
Yeah,
you know.
that's right. Yeah, Norman Lux had come along. Anyway, there was a group of malcontents who never liked me when I was news editor because I used to treat them like rubbish.
Yeah.
Because they were lazy, idle, talentless, couldn't recognise a story, didn't have any ideas.
Don't know why you bothered hiring them. then.
Basically stealing a living. It was in the days when reporters worked on a 4-day week,
Yeah.
believe it or not, which I hated.
Yeah.
And I was always ringing them up on their days off and trying to ruin their day off, to make them feel like, I was on their back and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this particular guy, Jim, who worked on the news desk, was the leader of that tribe. You know what I mean? So at the reunion, he marched over after a few. Well, first of all, I saw him in the queue.
You haven't got a lot of time here.
No,
You have
I
to
saw-
speed up on the story.
I saw him in the queue of people to get in. Now, I'd given up all those grudges years ago. It was 10 years since I worked with
You've
this
given
guy.
up grudges, have you?
I'd given up the grudges in
Used to be.
newspaper world 10 years before. So I'm waving to him in the queue like that, and the guy's doing the, looking at the floor and ignoring me and all that. Anyway, after a few drinks later, he came marching over. He says, can I have a word with you? And I said, yeah, cool, of course you can. I had a big glass of wine in my hand. He says, in private. I said, well, it's not a very private place, is it? I said, it's a big room full of people. Over there in the corner. I said, yeah, OK. He's very aggressive, So I went over there, and then he said, right, I didn't like you then, pointing his finger at my chest, and I don't like you now. As this was going to destroy
That's
my
it.
life.
That's all we can tell.
Yeah.
It's
And
now time for the news.
I said, OK. And I just laughed at him.
Right.
And he got upset and walked off.
Well, there we are.
What a bum.
Indeed. This is Talk Radio.
It's a wonderful night, gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, gotta shake it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down.
This is Talk Radio. We are the two mics. Chris says this. Next week, I predict Porky will get 10 out of 10 in the Porky quiz. That is odds on. He will ask the questions and then try and answer them.
Well, I will have to be doing it myself,
Yeah.
obviously, so it could
so
be...
you can set yourself your own quiz.
Yeah, I could do, yeah.
See how well you do.
Yeah.
Freddie says, will you be saying the same thing to Porky as Jim did when you meet up in a few years' time? I didn't like you then, and I don't like you now. It could become the watchword, actually,
could
mightn't
be,
it?
could
And
be.
now, as you know, Mr. Parry, there's been a massive story over the past few days here in London. We can't get into the ins and outs of the arrest, of course, because it is an active case. However, everybody will have seen the video footage of a man running across Putney Bridge, shoving a woman in front of a bus, effectively, as he runs past her. We know a little bit more about him than we did, but we probably best not say too much.
I don't think we should get into it.
We are, however, going to talk now to Tim Navin-Jones, founder of London City Runners, because you think, I believe, that there's a bit of an anti-jogging kind of sort of feeling now coming through to parts of London.
I'm not saying there is an anti-jogging feeling. What I'm saying is that you kind of get the feeling that joggers now have a kind of superior feeling about themselves, in much the same way as I've always complained that cyclists feel that they're better people than motorists, and I wonder whether joggers think they're better people than pedestrians, and therefore pedestrians should move out the way and let the joggers get on with it because they are keeping themselves healthy.
I think for a lot of joggers it is difficult to run on crowded streets. In this particular case, the street was not crowded. Let's talk to Tim, though, and find out what's going on. Tim, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm sure, Tim, you'll tell us that all joggers are the most delightful people and would never dream of having any kind of physical encounter with anyone while they're running.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, joggers, as you said, people keep themselves fit. I don't think anyone has any more or any less right to a pavement. And obviously we live in a city with 9 million people or so, and but yeah, certainly I don't think we feel there's any air of superiority by being joggers in any way, shape or form.
The jogging sort of industry has become huge, Tim, if you know what I mean. Everybody does it. But don't some people do it because they think it's the right thing to do rather than just trying to keep themselves fit? And isn't the tolerance factor for a jogger, does it get strained when they have to break their stride, if you see what I mean, and stop? Because I've even seen joggers, and I can never quite understand this, who come to a pedestrian crossing or come to a set of lights, the lights are on red, they can't get across, so they jog on the spot. I mean, don't they take all this a bit too seriously? Isn't it meant to be a relaxing way to exercise your body rather than taking it as seriously as they do?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, nowadays, especially with these kind of apps and these watches that people have where they kind of measure every single step, you do get some people, as is always the case, where they can kind of be a little bit obsessive about those sorts of things.
Yes.
And it's slightly frustrating when, you kind of lose your rhythm a little bit as you're running.
Yes, that's what I mean, yeah.
And so, I mean, it's preferable not to stop, but part of the, fantastic thing about running, especially around the river in London, is you see some of the most incredible, incredible kind of monuments from the planet, and the fact that it's free, the fact that you can just literally put your trainers on and head straight out, or you can kind of run into work like that. That's part of what makes it so appealing.
Yes,
isn't it more healthy though to run where there's less traffic? For example, I realise in parts of London that's not always easy to achieve, but there's an awful lot of parks in London, and wouldn't it make more sense if joggers actually ran in parks rather than along pavements where people are pushing prams and other people are walking with their kids and all that kind of thing?
Carrying bags and all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think in so many running clubs are based around a park.
Right.
And I think that's where our running club, City Runners, is slightly unique in that we run along the river. But there's huge sections where it's not that busy. And on top of that, you have so many people now that actually run commutes. People that, rather than polluting the environment, they might cycle or run, into work, into the city.
Yep.
And that just makes it means it's better for the environment. It means it's better for them. It's
not always better for everybody else, though, is it?
Yeah, not always, but we all have to kind of co-inhabit the same space. Point. And
that is the word, isn't it? Co-inhabit.
Yeah, exactly. You see, the reason I've raised this, Tim, is because following this incident that we talked about, which we won't get onto for legal reasons, I look at most newspapers every day, and I always have a glance at the letters pages, and there seems to be a terrific underswell of resentment against joggers. All the newspapers right across the political spectrum talking about the superiority feeling of joggers and joggers bumping into people or getting irritated, push them out of the way. I mean, do you feel that? Do you feel a sense that you are starting to build up a form of resentment from people who don't jog?
Yes, I think I see exactly the point that you're getting at.
Yeah.
And I think if you're walking along minding your own business and suddenly you might get quite startled by a jogger, then you can see why that could potentially cause some resentment. But
yes.
I think from my perspective, running, like as a, and jogging and whatever you call it, is the fantastic thing about it is, unlike pretty much any other sport, most people are doing it, because they don't want to be inactive. That they're aware of the fantastic benefits, not just physically but in terms of mental health. But also, so many of them are often training for races, like where they raise huge amounts of money for charity.
What you mean, like the half marathons and that sort of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so many people that come into our club, they've never even run 5K in their life. And the great thing about running is it's so accessible to everyone.
Yeah, sure.
So I think any animosity towards joggers or runners is silliness, really. I mean,
do you not care about what Sadiq Khan said about the quality of the air in the city, though? I mean, he's basically said if you're on a bicycle or you're jogging anywhere near a busy street, you're liable to be ingesting deadly fumes, the like of which are going to kill you or knock sort of 20 years off your life.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you run in certain areas, you're aware that there's probably less exercise and worse for your own health. But I mean, part of the beauty, along the river, I like to think even back to, that's where a lot of the cleanest air is. And I think Sadiq's kind of massive campaign to make buses, kind of a lot more ecologically friendly is brilliant because,
Are you running at the moment, Tim?
I'm not. I'm by the river as it happens, but not.
Sounds a bit windy.
A bit windy out there.
Yeah, I'm right by the Thames right now, so I'm.
Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen anything like that video that we've all now seen, where somebody has pushed somebody out of the way? I mean, it must happen from time to time. Maybe not quite as violently as that, but it must happen.
Yeah, I mean, in the 7 years since I've run the club, we've had a few. I think we've had one complaint. Where they said, "Excuse me, I was walking along and you startled me," or I remember one time actually specifically where someone was walking on the river and we were in a relatively large group and the person said, "I'm just trying to walk here,"
right?
But basically,
what was your response to that? Did you just shove him in the river?
Yeah, just threw him into the river and then walked down the Thames.
Quite not. Right. Because I was walking, funnily enough, I was walking to the tube station this morning, right, in East London, and there's a guy on a bike cycling towards us, right? Yeah. And he was seemingly quite irritable about the fact that people were getting in his way. And, it's the kind of thing that leads people, people have short tempers, they're rushing to work, whatever. Yeah. You talk about people coexisting in the city, but, it seems to me that there are people who have more tolerance for it than others.
Yeah, well, I think that's where, more than anything, it comes down to the individual. And, some people are always going to be quite easily irritated, when you live in a city with 9 million people. And that's why we try and really, particularly to our runners, to say, look, you're probably going to get a selfie stick in your face. There might be people with dogs on a lead. There might be people with children that are running erratically. And, just be really patient, you certainly don't have any more or less right to the pavement than they do. And, but people, I think, normally when they run along a route like this, they're already pretty savvy to the fact that we live in central London. It's going to be busy. So, we've had very few incidents and, it was pretty shocking to see.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Glad to hear it's such a rare.
Well, Tim, thank you very much indeed. Tim Navin-Jones, there, founder of London City Runners, used to be found down running around by the river, which is all very well. I had a weird thing happen to me today, actually.
Yeah, go on.
Got on the bus this morning, right? Yes. And as I was standing at the bus stop, I noticed a woman running for the bus, right? So I thought, what I'll do is I'll be kind of gentlemanly here. I'll take my time getting on.
And you'll hold the door for her?
Well, not hold the door, but just inform the driver. It's a single-decker bus.
Yes.
So I said to the driver, there was a guy sitting there, I said, oh, by the way, there's a woman just running for this bus. And he said, don't worry about that. You worry about yourself.
Yeah, really?
To which I said, I beg your pardon?
Yeah.
He said, you worry about yourself. I said, well, I'm just telling you so don't shut the door on somebody who's coming in. You worry about yourself. I said, well, don't worry, mate. I worry about everybody, including you.
Did she get on?
She did.
Yeah, because you'd have this dialogue.
So my tactic worked. But what a rude thing to say.
A very rude thing to say. I find, generally speaking, bus drivers very accommodating when they see somebody struggling to get to the bus in time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I've often
but I've also seen drivers who see somebody coming. And then shut the door deliberately and just go.
Well, I haven't seen that. That's malicious. I mean, that's rather small. That's rather what's the word I'm looking for? Mean-spirited.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of mean-spirited bus drivers.
A bus driver should, and like you, I see somebody struggling, particularly a woman with a pram. I say, oh, by the way, Talking about prams.
We haven't
right?
got any time to talk about anything
I've
else.
talked about it in a minute.
You might as well get into the habit of stopping when you're supposed to stop,
I'll
because
tell
when
you in
you're
a
doing
minute.
your own show,
don't
you'll
worry
need
about
to
that.
stop for the adverts.
No,
from time
this
to
is
time.
my own show in association with you, okay?
I said when you're doing your own show.
No, when I'm doing the show on my own, that's what you mean.
No, you'll be doing your own show.
I will be doing my own
It's
show,
the same
yeah.
thing.
Instead of doing
Why are you
the
getting
show
so defensive?
jointly with you. I'm not getting defensive.
You are getting
at
very
all.
defensive.
No, I'm not. No.
It seems to me
I don't get defensive.
I'm going to give you some contaminated eggs if you're not careful.
No. I've never eaten an egg, have I?
This is Talk Radio.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. Here's one from Mr. Jester, who says, if Porky can fit in the studio, then people can take that giant pipe away. I don't really see the similarity with those two things.
No, I don't
to be
either.
honest.
No.
And also one from Alan. He says, my cousin was a bus driver in Birmingham,
Yes.
and he let my nan and aunt run right up to the door and then drove off.
No.
So, you know...
Why? Because he's not a very nice person.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, must be. Now, I was going to tell you a story about commuting home last night.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What's happened is, it was one of those nights when only half the train turned up, you know what I mean?
Isn't there supposed to be some ongoing strike action?
Well, there is
or
on
is
the
it still
trains I
happening?
use. Yeah, I don't know.
So they've now got strike action going on regularly with Southern Rail,
That's right, yeah.
They've also got Waterloo, half of the station's platforms
That's
shut.
right, yes.
I mean, how is anybody supposed to get anywhere?
I've no idea. But anyway, so I get on this train, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely packed. But before it gets packed, one of the first people to get on is this bloke with a pram
Oh, yeah.
and two children. So there's only 4 carriages on a train, which is normally 8 or 10.
See, that really irritates
Right,
me.
okay.
Really irritates me.
So he gets on and he parks himself right in the middle of the area where the door is, okay?
Yes.
So there are no seats.
But if he's got a pram, what's he
Yeah.
supposed to do?
Well, let me tell you. His 2 kids were then out of the pram.
Yeah.
And he had 2 bags with him as well.
Oh, was it like a big double pram then?
Oh, yes. So he put the... no, it wasn't. It was a single pram, but he had 2 kids. And he took the kid out the pram.
Yeah.
And then he sat them both down on this huge, like, duffel bag that he had. You know the sort of thing that you see rowers carrying all their equipment
Oh, yes.
around in? A huge
Did it have
kit
wheels?
bag. No, it didn't have wheels,
Right.
actually, but a huge kit bag,
Okay.
you know. And he sat them both on there, so they're taking up about a quarter of the space.
Okay.
He then puts the pram right in the middle of the space and sits in it himself to give himself a seat.
Right.
And starts playing a computer game with his children
Right.
on a very loud and noisy tab.
I see.
Right? So
When you say tab, you mean, sort of iPad
a
type
tablet,
device.
yeah, an iPad
No,
type.
but you see, the only reason I say it is nobody else calls it a tab.
Right, okay.
So they might misunderstand
It's a
what
tablet,
you mean.
It's a tablet.
Well, they don't really call it that either.
What do you call it?
Well, you call it
Well,
like
it might not be an iPad. It might have been like an Apple Mac or something, you know.
Well, no, it might have been an Android one, yeah.
An Android,
But it's
that's
just that
right,
nobody
yeah.
calls it a tab.
All right,
that's
well,
all.
an iPad, right? So
Okay.
he's sitting there. So anyway, as people are getting on, they're sort of, oh, excuse me. He said, what's the problem? He said, well, it's a very crowded train. You're taking up all the floor space.
Yeah.
Because he's not only sitting in the pram and his kid's sitting on this seat, and he's acting like as though, well,
Well, there's nowhere else for him to sit, though, is there?
There is what he should have done is the idiot. He
Yeah.
should have folded the pram up.
Yeah.
There was so little room. I mean,
Right.
people were literally like sardines.
Yeah, but that's easy to say. It's not so easy to do.
No, he should have folded the pram up and put it against the wall.
Hmm.
He should have told his 2 children to stand up against the wall, right?
Oh, so they have to stand?
Yes.
How old are the kids?
About
One of them's in a pram. He must be under 2.
No, about 3 and 4, I would say.
3 and 4.
Something like that. Yeah.
So you'd like the 3 and 4-year-olds to stand?
Listen.
Surely somebody should have given him a seat, shouldn't they?
Well, it was too crowded. He couldn't get through to that. He should have put the big kit bag up on a luggage rack
oh,
and
sure.
get it off the floor.
Oh, good luck with
Okay?
that. Have
Yeah.
you tried to get anything on those luggage racks?
Yeah, of course I have.
They're only half the size of any big bag.
I don't care.
You put a bag up there, it will fall down on the person
he
underneath.
should've gone- Anyway, he was hopelessly arrogant, and I gave him the devil's look and made sure that he wasn't going to mess with me.
Well, I'm sure that
I
made a
cannot-
massive difference
I
to him.
cannot stand, people who are so inconsiderate to fellow travellers when you know you're all in the same boat.
Well, why didn't you travel later? Because you don't need to travel during rush hour, do you?
I do. I need to travel whenever
Why?
I need to get back.
Well,
'Cause
yeah, I
have
know,
things
but
to do.
Yeah, well, things to do.
What
Like
you mean?
what?
You don't think we have things to do?
Well, you don't have much to do.
Are you mad?
No, I'm not mad.
You think with the 500,000 projects we've got going on at the moment, I don't have to go and
Yeah,
make
but you
sure
don't have to
that
go anywhere, though, do you?
Of course I have
you
to go
can do
anywhere.
all the things that you do.
No.
On your phone.
And how do I
on
go
your
and
sort of-
check the delivery of a new consignment of T-shirts,
Well, you
of
ring them
printed
up.
matter of cards. No, I go and see them.
You ring them up.
And that's where I was going yesterday, to the
Yeah, I know.
supplies
But
down
that's
in
the thing,
Surrey.
is you go and see people, which you don't need to do, though.
Well,
You can ring them up and say, has such and such arrived? They say, yes. You go, thank you very much.
Right. Well, is it right?
Hey?
Well, they don't know. Is it right?
Why
So
don't
I go
they know?
down to make sure it is
Well,
right.
maybe you're a control freak.
No,
is
I'm
your
not a
problem.
control freak.
Yes,
you
are.
know full well we had a batch of T-shirts
You are a
delivered
control freak.
recently which weren't right.
Yeah, but a control freak turns up at people's door.
So I now
instead
go
of
and
just
examine
ringing.
every delivery.
But you don't need to.
Yes, I do.
That's what I'm saying.
No, you're just an idle bum, and you are just trying to make out that nobody
See,
needs to do
whenever I
anything.
get under your
just to try and-
skin,
just to try and
whenever I
defend
get
your
un-
own
no, whenever I get under your skin, you just
deadbeat
start
and
abusing
alley
me.
cat-like lifestyle.
You just start abusing me.
No, I don't.
What do you think the phone's for?
The phone is for...
What is that for?
Communication.
It's not just for harassing
communication.
people.
No. The personal touch is something you just simply don't understand.
I see.
I've heard you, snap at people, be abusive to people. Your social skills are appalling.
My social skills are appalling.
And I have to do it for you.
Really?
Simple
No,
as
you
that.
have to just fill your days with things that you like to do.
No,
but
not
you
at
could
all.
actually do them remotely, is what
No,
I'm saying to you.
not at all.
And if I were you, and you have such a difficulty travelling with other people, the great unwashed, during the hours of rush hour,
Yes.
then you should travel when
So-
there is nobody on the train. For
Okay.
example, when you come into work for an earlier show, 10 till 1,
Yes.
on the tube, it's a much busier time. When I come into
No, it's
work
not for
this,
me, because I come on the first tube, because I get here and prepare for the show properly.
so you come in at what time to start a show?
6:30.
6:30. Why?
AM. To get here in good
And
time.
you're still all over the place.
No, I'm
So
never
what do
all
you
over
do
the
for
place.
3 hours?
This during on the phone, by the way, does that
No.
extend to the fact that we're going to open a new pub in a couple of weeks' time? Should
Well,
we do
I
that
don't
on the
know if we
phone,
are
shall
going to do that, are we?
Yes, we are. I've
Well,
told you.
then if you don't... Well, no, because if you're actually going to do, for example, a
Yeah.
stage show,
Yes.
of course you have to be there.
Exactly, yeah.
Unless you're live streaming
Yeah.
it and people
Why
can
don't we
watch
just
it
do New
in
York
their
on
own
the
home.
phone instead of going there and
Well,
doing
that's
it? Eh?
now you're being stupid.
No, you're being stupid, so no, you can do everything on the phone.
You can do lots of things on the phone.
Rubbish.
I don't have to come and see you on a Sunday to ring you up and ask you a question, do
Yeah,
I?
You don't apply
Would
yourself
you'd
to your
like
job
it, though,
properly.
wouldn't you?
That's your problem.
Oh, look, there's that big pipe.
Oh, yeah,
The Maritime and Coast Guard Agency have confirmed 8 feet in diameter, 2 massive pipes washed up and at Winterton. And is it Sea Pelling?
I don't know. It's more than 1,500 feet long.
I told you that already. It's 1,576. They're supposed to be on the way to North Africa, apparently.
Really? Well, that'd be oil installations then, won't they?
They pose no danger or risk of pollution.
Yeah.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, well, they're there,
Yeah.
and that in itself is polluting the beach. You
Yeah,
can't
well,
run
indeed.
into the sea. It's a 1,500-foot pipe,
Exactly.
8 foot tall, in
I
your
think,
way.
I think we should ring somebody up there and see what they can tell us.
Clearly, it's going to Nigeria or somewhere like that, where
Well, not anymore.
where people will be building oil refineries and that sort of stuff. You know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And now the number here, of course, is 0344 499 1000, or you could just turn up if you want to ask us a question.
Exactly.
This is Talk Radio.
Knock on the door.
Oh, they haven't done anything, have
No,
they?
no. No, we're still. No, I'm glad you read that number out. Do you
Yeah.
know why?
Why?
Because next week, right, I'm going to innovate the Porky Parry phone-in, right? We're going to start talking to our listeners
Are
next
you going
week.
to call it that?
I'm going to
Porky
call
Parry
it.
phone
I'm
in.
going to call a section of the show the Porky
Phone
Parry
Porky,
phone-in.
you could call
Yeah,
it.
phone Porky. That'll be part of the show
There
next
you go.
week. Okay, and I'm going to read out the number now in the non-mangled mouth fashion.
Okay.
Funnily enough, the arch exponent of the mangled mouth number reading out is in the building.
Is he?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, here we go.
Yeah, go on.
0344
Yes.
499
Yes.
1000.
Right.
Okay,
Very good.
you got it?
Yeah.
Remember
you sure
that.
you wouldn't rather people just popped in?
And everybody out there, please remember that, because Phone Porky is going to be an essential part of the shows when I'm flying solo next week. And believe me, I'm going to make you feel good about it.
Are you? Okay. Here's one from Bear, who says, Porky says tab to be cool and then shoots himself in the foot by saying it could be an Apple Mac.
Yeah,
So
well-
the guy's carrying a computer.
Yeah, well, that's
Well,
right.
maybe
yeah.
he's carrying one of those huge computers.
Quite right, yeah.
Peter says this, I enforce an imaginary 50p fine every time my young relatives do this or say like or yeah, no for no reason. This is actually talking about our last guest, who, I don't know whether you noticed, had a particular inflection of speech where he went up at the end of every sentence.
Oh, really?
Which makes you sound kind of like an Australian, but in many ways, many people now in this country do it.
Didn't notice.
You didn't notice?
No.
Really?
There's one here from Jim.
Staggered.
He says, I think Porky functions perfectly well with just 1/3 of his heart working. Not sure the world could handle him if 100% of his heart was working. Don't let it happen.
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's
nice,
probably
isn't it?
true.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Okay, folks, this is the Two Mics on Talk Radio, and from 4 o'clock, Yasmin Khan will be guiding you home with all the important news stories of the day. From 7, it's a mother of all talk shows with George Galloway. He'll be on the phone in the next hour to tell us, that's MG and myself, exactly what is going to be on his show.
That's right, and once Mr. Galloway has hung up his hat for the day at 10, Ian Lee will be here with his late night alternative. Stay tuned to Talk Radio.
Right, now then.
Go on.
Yeah, I was going to say to you that, what was I talking to you about before you so rudely interrupted
You were shouting at me because you told me that I was an oaf and somebody who didn't have any kind of personal magnetism.
That's right, yes, I was,
Something worse to that effect.
Yes, I was, yeah.
And nobody liked me.
Yes, that's right.
All completely untrue statements and possibly actionable.
I think not. Listen, I'll tell you what's interesting. Later on the show, we've got a guest coming on to talk to us about 40 years since Elvis.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
is it 40 years since Elvis died?
Yeah, since he died, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
1976, wasn't it?
70. Well, what year is it now?
It's 2017.
Well, it must be
77.
77,
yeah,
absolutely, 1977. And it's quite interesting.
Do you really not know what year it is?
Sorry?
Do you really not know what year it is?
No, of course I know what year it is, but I was working back 40 years. What I was going to say is, I was never a huge Elvis fan.
I wasn't.
I mean,
no.
I'm when we talk to our...
he's an actual Elvis impersonator.
He is an Elvis impersonator, but I mean, he must know an awful lot about Elvis because you have to sort of look at his mannerisms and all that kind of stuff. But I never quite got Elvis. I never quite got what the attraction was.
Well, I mean, I suppose if you lived through the beginning of Elvis's career,
you
would have been quite taken by the fact that he was not like anything else you'd ever seen.
Yes.
The way that he danced, the way that he moved, and then the movies he was in and all that kind of thing. So he was a really revolutionary character, wasn't he?
Should have done an Elvis quiz, shouldn't we, this week? We'll have to do it next week.
We could have done it. I think we've done an Elvis quiz, haven't we?
I don't think we have, no.
Well, if you want me to get the independent quizmasters to set an Elvis quiz for next week, I could possibly do that.
I think they should, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, point of my story is, I did, however, have an Elvis LP.
Did you?
And the reason I got it was because my mate told me about the laughing track.
The laughing track?
Do you know about this one?
No.
Are you lonesome?
Oh, I think I have heard this, and then he starts laughing.
Yeah, he starts and he can't stop laughing.
Yeah.
And it was never released.
Is it not live or something? Somewhere,
I think it might have been, but it was never released as a record. But it was, but I thought that was the best Elvis track ever. However, there were some stunning Elvis songs. I have to say, I just couldn't.
Well,
quite
that
get
one,
the
"Are
sound.
You Lonesome Tonight" is a great song.
Oh, it's too slow. It's a ballad.
No, yeah, but it's a great song.
No, the one I liked was "Kentucky Rain Keeps Falling Down."
I don't know that one.
Kentucky Rain, Kentucky Rain.
No,
Kentucky Rain.
Why,
I heard that played in a bar in Kentucky.
Did you?
When I was in Lexington.
Oh yeah. What were you doing there?
Sorry.
What were you doing there?
What was I doing where?
In Lexington.
I was trying to find out why the Queen had never been able to buy a horse that won the Derby for her. And Kentucky Bluegrass Stables we were at.
And what was the answer to that question?
I don't know. She'd never got the right bloodline or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. But I had a great story.
So you weren't talking to any experts then?
Well, I was talking to her. I had a great story. And I had the joy of, we all went out for dinner that night.
Yeah.
Everybody'd gone because...
it's quite a weird state, Kentucky, I always thought.
Oh, very strange, the Bourbon state and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But we'd all gone there at the same time because, some issue had come up about some great trainer said he was going to train a horse for the Queen or something like that. And delighted to say that I picked up such a good line that I followed it back to London. And then that night over dinner with myself and Tim Miles and Paul Connew from The Mirror, Paul, who thought he ran The Mirror, even though he's based
Who's on Talk Radio quite a lot, by the way.
Of course he is. A great guy who, who sort of worked in New York, but had such a big bureau, people sitting around doing nothing all the time as a power sort of game.
Yeah.
Got a terrible phone call from the desk in Mirror, who were delighted to tell him that I'd scooped him enormously on a huge story, and he'd better get his act together and get with it right away.
Oh dear,
it's not nice, isn't it?
That isn't nice, no. Especially when you haven't told him it's coming.
Exactly.
He must have been very popular. Now, let's go up to Great Yarmouth in Norfolk, where we're going to speak to Anthony Carroll, who's with the Eastern Daily Press, a paper you'll know well, and also the Great Yarmouth Mercury, because he's going to tell us exactly what is going on with these massive pipes that have washed up on the Norfolk beaches. Anthony, what is going on? We keep hearing that these have fallen off the back of a ship. Sounds a bit unlikely, that, doesn't it?
Well, hi there. It's good to speak to you both.
Yes, thank you.
It appears that they were being towed in the North Sea, destined for Algeria.
Right.
And we're led to believe another boat sort of smashed into them and they got cast adrift.
Oh, right.
And we think that 4 of these enormous structures are on our beaches. They've been secured now by the Coast Guard so they don't roll around onto
Yeah.
people and float out to sea.
Because they're plastic, right? So, I mean, does that mean that they're... obviously it means they can float, I suppose, but I mean...
Float, but they look very heavy to us.
Yeah.
They look, there's plastic, but there's metal bits in. We don't really, we haven't done like an analysis of them, but they're just sitting there, and they're just, when the tide water comes in, they're covered, and they will be removed and towed away. But of course, people are going down and taking pictures of it. People have tried to push them over, but they're immovable as far as we can see.
So they're being towed on what, like barges or something like that?
We think so, yeah, giant barge.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, have to be a giant barge. And where were they manufactured? Do we know? Have they come from Scotland?
Norway.
Oh, in Norway, I see.
Coming from Norway, being towed to all the way to Algeria. We don't know what purpose they were for.
Well, for the oil industry, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Oil, or maybe I wondered irrigation.
Irrigation, or petrochemical or something.
I mean, hasn't some company come forward to claim them, to say, these are ours, keep your hands away from them?
No. There have been officials down there from Maritime and Coast Guard Agency who have taken control of the operation, so they're leading it all. And they've said they've talked to the industries involved and local, our local district councils to make sure they're safe. They said there's no pollution fears.
No.
I mean, this is probably going to be a busy weekend this weekend in this area. If the weather's nice, and I imagine loads of people might flock down to the beaches to try and peer at them.
Yeah, but you won't be able to get in the sea if there's an 8-foot tall pipe in your way.
You can. Well, you can get around them, and and these beaches they're more like scenic ones. Some of them are famous for their seals. Yeah. People going. So it's not one to ever paddle out to sea, but walk your dog along the beach.
That's right.
Well, they could turn it into, I mean, are they? You may not know the answer to this, but are they sort of? I'm trying to think of the right word. I mean, they don't bend or anything, do they? I mean,
they're very straight. But one of them seems to wiggle a bit. But I think that might be the water weighing it down. But they're long plastic tubes. Some are 200 foot long.
Yeah.
We have some great aerial shots on our website, EDP and Great Yarmouth Mercury have already got some pictures, which our readers have kindly sent in.
Now, Anthony, you may know a bit about the situation regarding salvage laws, because, of course, there's a lot of coastline in your patch. I mean, what happens if somebody comes along and says, I claim them as, flotsam and jetsam and salvage and all that kind of stuff?
Well, first of all, I don't think you'd be able to take them away.
Well, no, but you could certainly... You
need a very large truck, wouldn't you?
Well, large barge.
They do belong to someone, so that, it's not as if they're not lost. So the company, they do belong to someone.
Yeah.
But that's my point, and I'm surprised that somebody hasn't actually claimed them. But I mean, I'm sure I've seen a picture where, the end of one of them looks like it has a kind of a seal on it of some kind.
Yeah, it's like
has anyone managed to open one of them up? Does it look like
not very aware.
You can sort of go inside and have a bit of a rave or something.
No, I don't. As far as I'm aware, but. I mean, it is weird. There's no one guarding them or anything, so it implies that they are safe.
Well, if you opened up the seal at the end of them, they might sink anyway, mightn't they?
Well, I don't know.
You might roll into the sea. Yeah,
exciting times in Norfolk, though, Anthony. I bet you haven't had a story this big for a while.
Well, it's funny you say that. I moved back to Yarmouth 6 months ago from other areas, and one of my first stories we found £50 million worth of heroin was washed up on beaches here.
Really? Golly.
Yeah.
Great. Well, keep your eyes open. You see what else you might find.
Yeah. Well, we always have, sadly, dead seals and other animals are found in the sea, so it always keeps us busy living on the coast.
I'm sure it does. Well, thank you for sparing the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much indeed, Anthony.
That's Anthony Carroll there from the Eastern Daily Press. Busy old patch up there, isn't it? Well, you were telling me nobody goes to Norfolk. It seems like a lot of stuff washes up there.
A lot of stuff washes up there. I think when you have a patch, like as a newspaper expression, with a bit of coast, it's fantastic. I mean, when I worked in Newcastle, my patch was North Shields, right? Which is the very edge of the Tyne River where it joins the North Sea. Yes. You see what I mean? That's why it's called North Shields, because it's the shield to the country. And
why is it called South Shields then?
That's the one on the south bank of the Tyne. You see what I mean? North and South Shields protected the country from the Viking invaders.
Oh, right, okay.
But all the time, you were hearing flares go off and all that kind of stuff. And the best stories are always when a fishing boat sunk. Hopefully nobody like drowned or anything like that. But when a fishing boat went down, I mean, whole community, a bit like mining communities, when you hear...
It's like that in Fife as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You know, but when you hear the siren go off and, oh, crikey, there's something happened down the pit or something like that, you know, it's the same sort of thing about fishing.
No, indeed.
Yeah.
I've got some good news for you. I'm going to tell you later.
Yeah.
Coming up next here on Talk Radio.
I like good news.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lying down on the couch.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. Coming up very shortly in the next hour, less than an hour, of course, it will be time for the Porky Quiz.
Certainly will.
Which is on Singapore.
Yeah.
Court Jester has sent in a lovely poster for you for next week.
Yes.
It says, one man, one mic, phone Porky, 1 to 4, all next week on Talk Radio.
Thank you very much indeed.
The only
Is that
thing I
from
would say
Jester?
to Court Jester,
Yes, Court Jester,
is
thank you.
that he's made the phone number rather small.
Yeah.
So my suggestion to you, design-wise, if you're going to make up a poster
Yes.
where you want people to ring a number, make the
Yes.
number as big as possible.
Exactly.
And make Porky's face as small as possible.
That's right.
Because obviously that's going to put some people off.
What?
You know what I mean?
It's a bit
Well, it
odd.
is, isn't it?
Well, I'll do a poster over the weekend, which will... but I do appreciate
But you're not
Court
known
Jester,
for your
thank you.
design, I'm afraid.
I
mean-
won't be designing it. We
No.
have our own design team. for
Oh,
that.
you've got a design team.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good. Now, Brian Viner, one of our favourite people that we speak to from
Indeed.
time to time about movies, normally about movies, sometimes about our live shows. Now, we're going to talk to him about a book, though.
Mm. A book
because,
review.
He's done a book review, which I didn't know he did amongst his many other
Oh,
talents.
yeah, I've seen many
Really?
book reviews from Brian.
Brian,
Viner.
a very, very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
How are you, fellas? Nice to talk to you.
Yes,
now, my
and
apologies. Of
great to
course,
have you on
Porky's
again.
just
Thank
put me
you.
straight that you do a lot of book reviews. I wasn't aware of that. But then
I
get,
do, yes.
I
I'm
get
a man of many talents.
a lot of things wrong. Now, this one's about a man who climbs trees. Tell us
Yeah.
about it.
Yes, it is called very appropriately The Man Who Climbs Trees.
Well, I suppose
Now
can't
this,
say fairer than that.
So you can't say fairer than that. And this fellow is called James Aldred, and he is a professional tree climber. And you wouldn't think there would be such a thing, would
No,
you?
no.
Was that as opposed to an amateur
he-
tree climber?
Yes, exactly, which a lot of us are.
Yes.
And I certainly was as a kid, and my children all climbed trees and, you know, and loved it. But you can actually parlay that into a career, it appears, and that's what this guy does.
Amazing.
So what does he do when he gets up a tree?
Well, he does all kinds of things, Mike. But I think principally he is a cameraman for wildlife documentaries, but he will also do sort of rig up. So he in Costa Rica a few years ago, he was responsible for getting Sir David Attenborough up a very, very, very high tree overlooking the canopy, so that he could film gorillas or something or other like that. But he also he'll take scientists up, he'll show scientists how to climb trees so that they can do find their data, whatever they do to test climate and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's what he does. And he's written this really very, very fascinating book. I highly recommend it. It's
I mean, funnily enough,
book, and it's beautifully done. Yeah.
funnily enough, and we were talking to Bill Oddie yesterday on the show, and he's got a book out at the moment about his garden, which
Yes.
actually is a far more fascinating book than you might at first think it would be. And this sounds as though it's in the same kind of genre, where
Well, when you
on the
say-
face of it, you think,
Yeah.
what could he possibly say that's interesting?
I mean, Brian, you say it's a very fascinating book, but I mean, isn't one tree like another tree? I mean, you know, you climb one tree,
Certainly
climbed
not.
them all, haven't you?
Well, he would very much disagree with that, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, the highest trees in the world are something like getting on for 400 feet high.
Golly, that's a big tree.
So you know, that is like climbing a average sized building, isn't it?
It is.
Big building.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course there are a multitude of different kinds of trees and he has to test. He's got to kind of get camera apparatus up there, and so they've got to be, he's got to find the right trunk and the right limbs on the tree. And he goes to places, he goes to Borneo and Congo and places like that, and not least of the problems, the challenges for him, are that you bump into some fairly unpleasant things up trees.
Yeah.
Some very, very toxic insects.
I was going to say, a lot of spiders, I would imagine, right?
A lot of
Snakes.
spiders, ants, snakes.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. Eagle. He bumped in Venezuela. He literally bumped into a female harpy eagle, which I should imagine is just as unpleasant as it sounds.
Yeah.
When you're trying to sort of invade its habitat.
Yes.
And this eagle thought that he was doing just that and was very worried about her chicks. So he came a bit of almost there. He's been bitten by something called a bullet ant, which is the most toxic insect in the world.
Golly.
And it's an inch long, and so that wasn't a pleasant experience.
That does sound awful, yeah. I'll tell you what I find. Yeah, sorry. What I find interesting as well, Brian, you may not know this, is that Porky, for a long time, because he likes to travel backwards and forwards down to Bournemouth, has maintained that there are no trees in the New Forest. This guy apparently had a boyhood passion for climbing trees when he was younger, and he did it all in the New Forest. So therefore, it must be true that there are loads of trees there.
Well, he found a tree. That's where it all started. The boyhood passion for climbing trees.
Yeah.
And when he was 16, he climbed a tree which he nicknamed Goliath.
Right.
And it's about 150 feet high, so I'm not quite sure what Mike's talking about, because there's obviously...
Well, it can only be a rare tree. Well, I mean, there's hardly any trees in the... If you've ever driven down the A27, Brian, you'll see when you go through the New Forest, there aren't any trees. That's why. Okay. That's why one of the kings was killed there hunting, because you can't hunt in a forest that's got plenty of trees. You can only hunt in a forest that hasn't got any.
Strange to call it a forest, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they call it a new forest because it's like a new conception, a forest without trees.
Well, when you said, when you uttered those,
I'll have to tell you a word for that.
When you uttered the words, Brian, I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. You're not the first person to have said that, obviously. Now, I'm wondering
I'm not
whether
even the first person today to say that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if that's the case, actually. But I'm wondering if you might, your paths might be crossing this weekend. Porky's off to Goodison Park later on this afternoon.
Yeah, I will be there.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I'll be on my way. Very much looking forward to it. I can't remember, Mike. I don't know. We're getting off the subject of trees somewhat, but I cannot remember ever being excited about. As passionate an Evertonian as I am, but Everton v Stoke has never filled me with almost palpitations of excitement like this one does.
I totally agree, because the start of a whole, not just a whole new season, a whole new era, we hope, for us, and we're all expecting so much to happen. And in fact, funnily enough, it's the first time ever Everton sent me a little badge.
You can't turn this show into an Everton loving.
No, I'm turning back on the trees in a minute. A little badge which says Everton versus Stoke, so it's an enamel badge for the first game, which is great.
Do you get that as part of your lavish hospitality package?
Yes, I certainly do. Oh, yeah. But getting back
I'll look out for you, mate.
Thank you very much indeed. Getting back to the tree climbing man, it says in Gabon he was commissioned by a film company to build the ultimate jungle tree house. The project took him high into the Azuga tree, where he blundered into this nest of African bees, right? And their attack on him, and the way they forced their way into his mouth and up his nostrils, is one of many passages that could make a statue wince. That's a very nice expression. However...
Well, there's worse to come, because don't forget about the blizzard of black flies with bulbous red eyes that laid eggs on his clothes, and they hatched inside his skin.
Oh, my God, don't give me any of that.
I can imagine. And it would never stop. It just never, ever stopped him. He put up with all of this. Yeah. And yet, despite all of that, the bulbous black flies and the ants and the spiders and everything else, the most terrifying experience he ever had, as you've probably read in my review in today's Mail, was in the garden of Buckingham Palace.
Yes.
Where there are two plane trees called Victoria and Albert, and they were making a documentary in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, and his job was to climb up one of these and to rig up some camera apparatus, but nobody had told the Queen. And so he's up this tree and he's doing his thing with his camera, and he suddenly looks over to the windows of her private apartment, and she is looking absolute daggers at him from her window. And so he thinks he'd better get down, so he has to abseil down. And by the time he's abseiled down, he is met there by a pack of barking corgis and a royal flunky who says to him, the boss wants to know what you're doing climbing her favourite tree. So I'm not quite sure how that panned out. But,
I can just imagine a scene there where sort of the Duke of Edinburgh starts firing at him, with a rifle out of the
double barrel
clay pigeon shooting style. Just shoot him out of the tree just for a bit of a laugh.
Getting out the tree.
One day I should tell you, fellas, about my experience interviewing the Duke of Edinburgh in Buckingham Palace, because that's a funny story, but that's another day maybe.
We must do that, yes, absolutely right.
Indeed.
Well, Brian, listen, thank you very much indeed for
joining us.
Brian,
thanks for joining us, and fingers crossed for tomorrow, mate.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
enjoy the day. We may have to get you on next week to get a report on Porky's behaviour. So you keep your notepad with you just in case anything interesting happens.
How dare you.
Brian Viner there, the multi-talented Daily Mail book reviewer, film reviewer, theatre reviewer, and all sorts of things as well. Now, here's a story that I wanted to talk to you about earlier on the show, but we haven't quite got to it yet. But have you seen this story about the goldfish today?
Goldfisher.
No, not goldfisher.
What is it?
Scientists have figured out how goldfish produce alcohol to survive when trapped beneath icy surfaces of frozen ponds and lakes. So apparently, what they managed to do somehow is recreate their own alcohol, which keeps them going under the cold and frozen icy waters.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Very weird indeed, yeah. I didn't know they could live in an area that has no oxygen.
Yeah, well, neither did I.
No.
So, fascinating stuff. We'll be getting into that. We'll also be getting into the Singapore Porky quiz.
Yep.
This is something that we do on a regular basis at the end of every week.
Yes.
However, today, with a difference, we're going to be broadcasting it live on Periscope.
Excellent.
So if you're not on Periscope, I would advise you to get on it now, and it will be put out by Talk Radio's Periscope account.
Okay.
We'll put a link out on our own Twitter as well, which is, of course, at the two Mics, at Mike Parry 8, and at IROMG. Loads more to come. We are the two Mics. This is Talk Radio.
The two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! How I wish that there were more than 24 hours in the day. Even if
Talk Radio, we are the two Mics. You'd have to say, despite what Mr. Parry said a little bit earlier, that's a great Elvis song as well, isn't it? Viva Las Vegas. What do you mean, which one?
Yeah,
the one we're playing?
Yeah, but that came from a film, didn't it? You know.
Well, it came from Viva Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter that it came from a film.
Well,
it's a great song.
Well,
it reminds me of The Big Lebowski as well.
Great song, yeah.
Have you seen The Big Lebowski yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
You've got to see The Big Lebowski.
Why?
It's on Netflix. It's a great film.
Really? Yeah, okay.
And there's a bit where the girl who is supposed to have had a toe cut off is driving her car.
Oh, no.
And you see her putting her foot on the accelerator of an open-topped Ford Mustang.
Right.
With green painted nails. And you can see that her foot has not, in fact, lost a toe.
Oh, I
So it's quite an important part of the film.
I see.
But this is the music they play.
Right.
It's a great song.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to talk to a guy called Mike Bubbins, who calls himself a retrosexual male.
Yeah.
And is also an Elvis impersonator.
Indeed.
And he's from God's own country of Wales. Mr. Bubbins, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, both Mics. How are you both?
Very
How
well
are you?
indeed. Thank you for joining us.
Now,
Yeah,
is it true that you live in the past and yet you've given up doing Elvis impersonations?
Yeah, it's a bit of an oxymoron. I haven't done the Elvis thing for a few years, but I do live firmly in the past, yeah.
Right.
Drive a nice little Mark III Cortina and...
Really? Well, you should
Yeah,
get on well with Porky,
appropriately.
because Porky likes the past, doesn't
Hey,
you, Porky?
it's a bit harsh.
No,
No, I
you
don't
do.
like the past at all. I like a Mark III Cortina, though.
That's what I mean.
one of my
Yeah.
favourite cars. Very stylish.
Beautiful. Very well, quite right.
Yeah.
Now,
Brown-
you're in
brown-
you're in Edinburgh. We're celebrating, I suppose we're celebrating or commemorating the anniversary of Elvis Presley's death, right?
16th of August will be, 40 years since the King passed away, yeah.
That's right, the King. Yeah, why did they call him the King, I wonder? I mean, he's quite good, wasn't he? But
Well, what would you rather call him?
well, Elvis. Really, yeah. But I mean, what's up?
He didn't like being called the King.
Yeah,
he didn't like that either.
Didn't he? Fine. When
No.
did
Should
you?
have called him Burger King, really,
Should
shouldn't
have, call him Burger King. So.
Not really.
I mean, was he always going to be this sort of guy that you had to impersonate because he was so iconic, and B, there were so many traits, Mike, about his individual personality and his physical appearance that he was he must have been one of the greatest ever targets for impersonators like yourself.
Well, yeah, well, I did it as a comedy thing, but I mean, it was like I think they get very, very precious about that as well. You got to call them tribute acts. If you call them impersonators, they get very shirty.
Really?
Yeah, it's just, I think it lends itself, doesn't it? If you go around in a jumpsuit with a cape on and big sideburns, I mean, it's quite an iconic look, isn't it? It's not.
Is it the case though that nowadays I know it's not quite reached this point yet, but it's rather like you get to a stage where nobody actually knows who it is that you're a tribute act for because Elvis Presley hasn't been around for such a long time. No, but still.
Matter, does it?
Well, I mean,
no, I don't think so at all. I mean,
hang on. Well, let me put this to you. My two youngest children, 12 and 10,
Right.
have no clue who Elvis Presley is really. I mean, yes, they've heard one or two of his songs, but if I said this guy's a massive icon of the 20th century, they would look at me blankly.
Well, you failed as a father then, really.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree.
I don't think you're in the sort of position to say that.
No, that's a perfect answer. I mean, the point is, if your children haven't been culturally educated into, what happened in the world in the years before they were born.
How have you culturally educated your children?
I haven't got any children.
Oh, you haven't got any children?
No,
right.
But if I did they'd know about Elvis.
Have you got any children, Mike?
Yeah, they both know about Elvis.
Yeah.
They know about Elvis. How old are they?
They're 7 and 4.
7 and 4. And you've abandoned them for an entire month to go out to Edinburgh, have you?
Well, they're with me right now, actually. They're the other side of the bar with their mother, just having an orange juice.
Oh, well, there you go, you see. That's a proper... I call that proper parenting.
They're in a pub.
Proper parenting.
We went and did the Edinburgh Festival last year, but I didn't bring my kids with me. I didn't think it was very suitable for them.
Well,
I don't blame you.
I'm sure Mike would. Now, Mike, you're at the Edinburgh Festival, of course, and there's a multiplicity of acts there. Is anybody still doing Elvis impersonations? And are we going to be overwhelmed by them in the 40th year of his death?
I don't think there's any up here. I don't know. There's a huge thing in Wales every year called the Porky Elvis Festival, which bills itself as the world's biggest Elvis festival.
Yeah.
On their website, certainly.
And all these saddos turn up in these flared sort of white suits, do they? And, the rhinestone cowboy type collars.
That's Glenn Campbell,
isn't it?
Sorry?
Yeah. That's Glenn Campbell.
Glenn Campbell.
With the Bible and the cocaine.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But I mean, when you're doing the Elvis impersonation, are you aware of the fact that, this man was one of the most iconic that was ever born, and therefore you've got to treat him with a bit of respect while you're taking the mickey out of him?
Yeah, well, I don't take the mickey as a thing. I mean, there's people that do take the mickey, and I haven't done it for about 5 or 6 years probably. I did it a few times, but it's the people who love the king. I mean, I can understand why people go to see someone doing it. I can't understand why some of them sell CDs at gigs. I don't know why you want to listen to someone sounding like Elvis singing Elvis songs, but...
No, I totally agree. That's why I'd never go and see the... there's a group who just go around and fill the Albert Hall by pretending to be the Beatles. What are they called?
That's crazy.
Sorry?
There's a few of those, isn't there? Yeah, I don't see that. I can see going to a live gig with your mates and playing some of the songs, but why people are buying the albums and the soundtracks is
it's weird. Why would you go and see a group called the Bootleg Beatles and the guy's sitting there looking and sounding like John Lennon?
Didn't you have them in the studio once?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
I understand why you go and see it, but then why you go and reach into the music collection and put the Bootleg Beatles on instead of putting on the White Album? That really defies belief, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It does indeed, yeah.
Of course, up in Scotland, they all like to say very loudly that it was the only part of Britain that Elvis Presley ever visited, because he stopped up at Prestwick Airport, didn't he?
On his way to Germany.
So he's on his way to Germany. Although, bizarrely, Bill Kenwright apparently told... Bill Kenwright's told a story that he was in London once.
Yeah, he said he was, yeah.
But with Tommy Steele, having a tour around London in a black cab with Tommy Steele.
Right.
Yeah, I know, that's pretty...
But he never made it to Wales, which is what puzzles me as to why there's an awful lot of interest in Elvis in Wales, isn't there?
Strange, I don't mention just the singing thing, I suppose. Although, of course, Elvis, the name comes from Wales. St. Elvis baptised St. David.
Aaron's a Welsh name as well, isn't it? His middle name is
Aaron.
Yeah, Elvis Aaron Presley.
Aaron.
It's a Welsh name. It's with the one A, Aaron. So he's got two Welsh first names, Elvis and Aaron, are both Welsh names.
That's right, yeah. It must be his...
Sounds like you're grasping at straws there, Mike, to be honest.
His mother must have had Welsh heritage. But anyway...
Anyway, where can people see your show?
I saw a place called the Assembly Rooms, Studio 4 in Edinburgh.
That's where we were. I
think we were there. Yeah,
that's nice.
It's a nice part of the world. Crazy city at this time of the year, though. I mean, how do you cope with it all?
It's mental. It's an absolute bubble as well. Everyone's sort of trying to throw flyers at you and put their own shows, and so it is a bit weird. But I mean, it's lovely. It's nice. It's see mates once a year. It's nice.
Indeed.
Nice way of doing it.
Well, listen, enjoy yourself, Mike, and best of luck with it all. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Good to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed.
I was quite off-put by the fact you kept calling him Mike there. I know that was his name.
Yes.
But I kept thinking you were talking to me.
No, it's not to him.
Because you very rarely actually call me that, do you? Except for when you're annoyed with me.
I don't even know I call you that when I'm annoyed with you.
No, you do. It's something that you do, yeah. Because only whenever I've listened to the clips of you sort of shouting at me.
Yes.
And when you absolutely genuinely get annoyed, you usually go, look, Mike!
Yeah, really? Okay.
You do, yeah.
Now, that guy gave you a bit of a lesson in parenting, didn't he?
No.
Because he went to the Edinburgh Festival to take his children with him.
No.
You went for a 3.5-day bladderation session.
Well, because the fact was that we were incapable of bringing children with us because, our show started at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
Knowing, as we did, that would then kick on until about 4 in the morning.
Well, you could have brought the mother of your children to sleep overnight with your children, couldn't you?
What?
You could have brought the mother of your children.
What would they have done?
What they've done?
While I was on stage.
Well, you don't think that there's a cultural benefit to having young children in Edinburgh, one of the most sort of famous and,
don't know
and
much about my
historical
children, do you?
cities in Edinburgh.
You don't know much.
Sorry, in
Edinburgh.
Scotland. Yeah.
You don't know much about my kids.
Sorry,
do you?
in the world. One of the great cities of the world.
One of them was actually born in Edinburgh.
Yes,
you
that's
plank.
right. Yes.
So he knows Edinburgh pretty well.
No, because he was there when he was so young.
No,
he
no,
wouldn't
no.
have taken in anything
No.
about Edinburgh.
We lived in a place called Linlithgow.
Yes, but he
which
moved.
is a stone's throw from Edinburgh.
But how long
about
ago?
2 stops on the train.
How long ago did you move away?
Doesn't matter.
10 years ago.
He's been to Edinburgh many times.
Yes, well, yeah.
And it's actually not the best time to visit Edinburgh during the festival if you happen to be a
Well,
child,
you say
because the place is overrun by people from London and other parts of the United
Yes,
Kingdom.
yes,
So you don't
yes,
get a
yes,
flavour of Edinburgh at all. All you
say
get is a load of lovies wandering about going, oh, have you come to see my show?
Yes.
And that's all you get.
Yeah, well, we didn't do that.
We didn't do that, no, because we don't have those kind of followers.
That's right.
But anyway, listen, we got George Galloway coming up very shortly. He's going
Excellent.
to tell us what's coming up on the mother of all talk shows.
Yep.
He's the top man. And here's a message from Beth, who's texted in. She says, I'm looking at your photos on my tablet. Which of you has the beard so I know who's who?
Me. I'm the one with the svelte facial whiskers.
Facial whiskers. That would be Mike Parry. He's the one who looks a bit like Captain Birdseye.
That's right.
I'm the one that doesn't look like Captain Birdseye.
That's right.
This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Stay tuned to Talk Radio because from 4, Yasmin Khan brings you a drive time show packed with top guests. Journalist Cameron K. McEwen will be going through the stories that are trending this afternoon.
That's right, and the Reverend Richard Coles is the latest Strictly Come Dancing confirmed contestant, and he'll be telling Yasmin all about it. Don't miss Live at Drive with Yasmin Khan from 4 o'clock until 7, only here on Talk Radio.
Indeed. And, of course, coming up after 7 o'clock, it is the mother of all talk shows, one of the greatest radio shows of all time, hosted by the one and only Mr. George Galloway. Mr. Galloway, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
And to you, I'm so glad you're back, guys, on this wavelength. You are radio gold. I really mean that.
Well, you're very kind
of you.
You
Thank
are very
you.
kind. Now, we were just talking to one of our guests earlier on who's up in Edinburgh. You've been on your travels as well, but you're heading back this way as we speak, I think.
Yes, I've just been in Ireland for a couple of days in the north, in Derry and Belfast, and politics is alive and well there, of course. It's a meat and drink for the people over there. But, of course, internationally, we're in very, very dangerous times. You remember that song? I don't know if either of you is old enough. They're coming to take me away.
Yes, that's right.
A guy
Yes.
called Napoleon, I think, Napoleon the 14th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in the 60s.
Yes.
Anyway, that was in my mind as I was watching Donald Trump more or less declaring World War III on Twitter, threatening people, and he's locked and loaded and all of that. These are very, very dangerous times. So we'll be looking at the Korea crisis and the crisis of the United States leadership. Talking to John Leboutillier, who's a former U.S. congressman, a Republican, but
Top man,
one of those that would come in the white coats that were flapping to take him away.
Well, it's unusual, isn't it, George, when you hear the words describing a world leader as erratic, dangerous, out of his tree, mad, and it turns out they're talking about the U.S. president rather than the head of North Korea.
Well, exactly. I mean, he must be delighted, Kim Jong-un, that there's one world leader crazier than him. Unfortunately, he's the one with his finger on the trigger, and missiles are trained on Korea. But, of course, Korea has a border with both Russia and China. And the idea that you're going to fire nuclear weapons at a small state on the border of two superpowers is just so frightening. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. So we'll be looking at the whole implications of all of that. And also, why don't they just take away his phone? Why doesn't General Kelly just confiscate that phone? Because you can't have crises of this magnitude literally managed on Twitter. I'm a Twitter man just as you two are.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't think of handling my most sensitive negotiations on Twitter, especially when the future of the world could be at stake.
Yeah, but that's why it's also remarkable, because nobody expected it like that, and Donald Trump is reacting in a very bizarre and, as you quite rightly say, potentially dangerous way. But if Kim Jong-un wasn't such a nutter, there wouldn't be a crisis, would there?
Well, that's true up to a point, and that's why I say we're in the hands of two very unstable guys.
Yeah.
One of them, I don't know how old he is, the young un, but he looks about 21 to me.
Right.
And he's in complete command of what now appears to be a nuclear-armed force.
Yes.
And he's capable, it's obvious, of launching intercontinental ballistic missiles. They say he's capable of landing one in Guam, which is a U.S. military base.
Yep.
And therefore it's a very frightening situation. It has its comic aspects, not least that haircut that the young un's got, and the haircut that the American.
Well, I was going to say the hair in both cases. In fact, I don't know whether you've seen on Twitter somebody's done a face swap between the two of them, which is quite bizarrely disturbing as well. But don't you think, just to be serious for a moment, George, as well, that one of the things that people now struggle with is because of the lies that were told to them over Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction, people don't really know what to believe or what to think anymore when they get told that this guy can fire a missile that hits Britain.
Well, that's a fact. Nobody knows. If they told you today was a sunny day, you'd have to go to the window to check.
Yeah.
Nobody believes our leaders, even when they're telling the truth. And that's their own fault, of course. They bankrupted their credibility with their lies over Iraq. And that's another of the issues I'm dealing with, Mike, today. Because you'll have noticed that just when you thought it might be safe to get back in the water, Tony Blair is back with plans for a new party, a centrist party, an anti-Brexit party, agglomerating the brightest and the best of the anti-Brexit forces to form a new party called the Democrats, determined to overthrow the democratic decision of the British people to leave the European Union. You couldn't make that up either.
No.
And it seems to be serious. They're fundraising on a grand scale. Blair, of course, if you'll have seen my film, The Killings of Tony Blair, has made £100 million fortune in just 8 years. And so he could put his own money in even if he doesn't raise any more.
Yeah.
And so they're about to take the field.
That's right. Is he going to get Alistair Campbell to draw up a manifesto for him? Because that would be another unbelievable document, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Apparently there's a dossier being produced of how Brexit will be a complete disaster for all of us.
Yes.
And if you believe it, I've got a bridge over the River Thames that I can sell you.
Yeah.
So, but these people are serious. They do command a lot of support in Parliament, not least in the Labour benches behind Jeremy Corbyn, who've never really accepted that their leader has changed, and they still owe their ultimate loyalty to Blair and his world's view, and so we're in for some exciting times on the British political scene too, because the clock is ticking to Brexit, and if these people don't get their act together soon, well, it'll all be over, and Tony Blair's dreams of being the president of the European Union will be gone forever, unless, of course, he takes Irish citizenship. We can't rule that out either.
Well, I saw the lovely Cherie on the TV the other day. I think she's up to no good as well in some area or other of human rights legislation. So we haven't seen the back of either of them, I don't think, for a while.
I think you're right.
Well, George,
That's
listen,
right.
we shall see you later on tonight. You're on at 7 o'clock.
Yes.
And obviously you'll be taking calls as ever.
Yes, absolutely. It's the mother of all talk shows. It's the university of the airwaves. It's a lesser university to your own, but it's a university nonetheless.
We've got more of the kindergarten of radio, I think, for us. But thank you, George. Indeed, George Galloway, the mother of all talk shows, coming up at around about 7 o'clock. Now, coming up very shortly here, it's the Porky quiz, of course.
Of course it is.
And I've got a great text here which has come in. And if you want to text us, of course, it's 87222 or 87222. Text the word talk. And this is from Simon in Windsor, who says, Mike is right, The Big Lebowski is one of the greatest films ever.
Really?
But being a bit of a pedant, he wants to point out the girl was driving a convertible XJS, not a Mustang. That is entirely correct.
Really?
I got that wrong, She's driving one of those old style, with the long hood.
Yes.
What
did you say it was?
I said it was a Mustang.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, it's an XJS.
Okay.
But it's an open top, convertible.
I like the XJS. Lovely.
Yeah.
Do you know one of those for years?
An old friend of ours had one.
Roger
Jobson.
Taverner.
Oh, did he?
Roger Taverner had one.
Well, Robert Jobson had one as well.
Has he still got one?
I don't know if he has, because it was a few years ago.
I think Roger Taverner might even still have it. It's now a classic car.
Where is he living now?
When I last heard anything of Rog, my old mate, he was living Bristol way.
All right.
I'm working on one of the Bristol papers.
He was from that part of the world, wasn't
Western Daily Mail or
he? Western Daily Press.
Western Daily Press, was it?
Yeah.
What was the other one? The Western Morning News, was it?
No, there was a Western Daily Press and
I think it was the
something
Western
Morning
Morning
News.
News.
Maybe there was, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a tweet here from David who says, "We are with the great unwashed. What should we have to eat?" And it looks as though he's in a Wetherspoons, and it looks like an advert for some fish and chips.
Well, if that's fish and chips and Wetherspoons, that's one of those scrumptious meals in this country. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
Okay?
And Jamie says, I've just booked 2 VIP seats at the City Winery for the 2 mics. Wife doesn't know she's New York bound.
Oh, really?
I hope that's not meaning I shouldn't have read that out, Jamie, now that she knows.
Yeah, I hope, presumably she's not listening at the moment.
Well, why would you presume that?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because I don't think he would be foolish enough to give us public information like that, knowing that we're a radio station, knowing that we do read out a lot of stuff that comes in here, without having made a cunning and somewhat deceitful plan
and if you
to exclude his wife from
well, indeed. And if you want to do the same, by the way,
from the hearing of it.
If you want to actually get yourself some tickets for the show in New York, just go onto our website, the2mics.co.uk. But if you can't make it, here's what you should do. You should go on there and buy the live stream, where there's a load of other interesting videos to be had as well.
Yeah.
Pete says this, I'm predicting a big fat 0 in the Porky quiz and a complete shambles from next Wednesday.
Oh, don't think it'll be a shambles.
Well, don't forget, loads of people are going to call in from Wednesday because phone Porky on all sorts of different subjects.
That's right. It's going to be a phone
Have you decided
Porky.
yet how you're going to lead them around on which subjects you're going to be talking?
Well, I'll be doing a lot of planning over the weekend. Don't worry. I've got a very busy weekend ahead.
I'm not worried at all because I'm
tomorrow.
I'm going on holiday.
And then Sunday, on Sunday, in fact,
we've got a show on Sunday night.
We've got a show on Sunday night. That's exactly right.
On Talk Sport, that is.
That's on Talk Sport, and there's plenty going on, man. Plenty going on.
Okay. Pete says this. I don't know whether I should read it out, but I think it will probably go okay. I just burnt my Hawaiian pizza. I should have put it on aloha temperature.
Aloha temperature, yeah. We like a little joke on a Friday afternoon, you know,
like that?
as the week is running out, so to speak.
Matthew says, can we expect a week of Everton radio without the stewardship of MG?
No, definitely not.
I don't think so.
No.
And Mr. Dawson is asking if he could be classed as your German correspondent.
Who's?
Because he sent in... Do you remember you were talking about the German trains?
Yes.
And they were called ice trains.
Yes.
I don't know if you've seen his picture.
Yeah, I have, actually.
And he's
What's
posted
it say on the side?
It says ice.
Exactly,
and he's posted it and said, once again, Porky's proved correct.
Thank you.
And the picture is taken in Hanover.
Yes, that's right. Hanover!
Well, why should anybody be surprised that you get something right?
Do you have my property?
Why are you doing that?
Hand
Why are
it
you doing
over.
that? You can't do that. How many times have we told you can't do the accents? You're not allowed to do any accents next week or else you'll be taken off the air.
All right.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The 2 mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Just call me the run. I'll squeeze and unfold you. Call me the run. I just gonna show you.
It's Porky quiz time. We are the 2 mics, of course. This is
Sure
Talk
is.
Radio. This is where we get to test the knowledge of Mr. Mike Porky Parry on the given subject that he has requested a quiz
No,
on.
I didn't request it. No, I think it was a joint decision.
Okay, well, the decision was made to make a quiz about Singapore
Yes.
because it was this very week that they celebrated 52 years, I should say, of independence
That's right.
from Malaysia.
That's right.
Now, it is going to be broadcast live on Periscope, so go and look for it on Periscope on the Talk Radio Twitter account, and you'll be able to watch us as well as listening to us.
Right, okay.
Now, you might have recognised that voice singing the song there, did you?
That was my pal Liam.
Your pal Liam Gallagher. Now, the reason we played a Liam Gallagher song is because we couldn't find anything that had any reference to Singapore.
Okay.
So Corny came up with the idea that maybe we could just have a poor singer.
Yes, a poor singer.
Get it?
Poor singer. Singapore,
Do you
poor
get it?
singer. Yeah, that's quite
good,
good.
isn't it?
Yeah, quite like
It's
that.
good.
Yeah. I am Chinese.
No, don't do
if
that.
You, please.
You can't do that.
That was a famous.
No, you can't.
That was a famous opera. You oaf.
You're going to call me an oaf, are you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
try and stay away from the Chinese accents
Yeah,
while
yeah.
we're doing this quiz.
Yeah, okay.
Question number 1.
Right.
What time is it in Singapore?
What time's it in Singapore?
Yes, right now.
What, so, no, what do you mean? What time's
time
in
is
Singapore when what happens?
What time is it now?
In Singapore?
Yes.
Right now,
Yeah.
in Singapore,
Yeah.
it is. It's. No, hang on. Excuse me.
You don't know, do you?
I do know. It's.
What time is it?
It is 11:34 p.m.
Incorrect.
No, it's not. That's not incorrect.
No, it's 10:34. They're 7 hours ahead.
Well, I mean, that was
7
almost
hours
right.
ahead.
That was almost right.
Well, it's almost right.
Well, hang
some
on. Which
people-
part of Singapore? Which part of Singapore?
Singapore doesn't have more than one time zone.
Okay.
Don't try that one.
I think I should get half a point for that.
I don't think you should. Almost right is also described as wrong. Question number 2.
Yes.
What is the largest religious group in Singapore?
In Singapore?
Yes, in Singapore.
In Singapore.
That would be on account of the fact that we are doing a quiz on
Yes.
Singapore.
Well, there is a big Christian factor. There is a pocket of Hindu and Muslim, but the biggest religion there is Buddhism.
That is correct.
Thank you.
1 out of 2. Question number 3.
Yes.
Who is the Prime Minister of Singapore?
Prime Minister of Singapore is... I know this. It's a guy called Dave Marshall.
What?
Dave Marshall.
Dave Marshall? Incorrect.
No.
No.
It's not Dave.
It's not Dave Marshall.
Who
Who the hell's Dave Marshall?
I thought he was the...
No, it's a man by the name of Lee Loong.
Oh, Lee Loong. Okay, yeah.
Question number 4.
Yeah.
When is the next Singapore Grand Prix?
The next Singapore Grand Prix?
Yeah.
Do you mean which is the next season and which is the Singapore Grand Prix?
I mean, when is the next Singapore Grand Prix?
The next
I'm
Singapore
looking
Grand
for a
Prix.
month and a year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That will be...
Well, unless, of course, there isn't one.
No.
Could be a trick question.
That will be... It is in October 2017.
Incorrect.
No!
I'll give you half a point.
Yeah?
It's in September 2017.
Well, there you go, you see.
So you got 1.5 out of 4.
Yeah.
Question number 5. Singapore consists of a collection of islands.
Yes.
How many are there?
How many?
Yeah.
How many islands?
How many islands?
In Singapore?
Yeah. It's quite hard, this one. Of course, you've been there, haven't you?
Yes, I've been there,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you mean all the islands?
Yes, all of them, yeah.
All of them, yes, okay. Altogether...
Yeah, altogether.
Altogether,
Yeah.
there are 14 islands make up Singapore.
Not even close.
What?
63.
63?
63 islands.
Yeah, but hang on, excuse me, this is a technical point.
What?
Of the 63,
Yeah.
only 14 are inhabitable.
Uninhabitable.
No, are inhabitable.
Well, you may say that.
No, it's true.
Well, you may say
It's
that.
true. I know that. I remember the fact.
No, you
only
don't.
14 are inhabitable. The others don't count.
You're just making
because
it up
there are 49 uninhabitable islands, so they don't count.
Absolute rubbish. Question number 6.
Yeah.
Which science fiction blockbuster recently shot the skyline of Singapore being destroyed by aliens?
A blockbuster science fiction. Recent one.
Yep.
Recent science fiction blockbuster.
Yeah. I know you're a keen cinema goer.
Yes.
This is broadcast live right now, by the way,
Yeah, I
on
know,
Periscope.
Yeah, on
We'll
Periscope.
just give you a bit more time
I
to
think it could be.
Yeah.
I think it could be.
Yeah.
The remake.
Yes.
Of The Day After Tomorrow.
Incorrect.
No.
It is, in fact,
I thought it was
not only
close.
aliens in The Day After Tomorrow. It was about the weather, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, sort of. yeah, right. Well, I didn't know this was about aliens.
This was Independence Day Resurgence. Well, the bit where it said...
Well, that's the one I meant. I meant Independence Day.
The skyline of Singapore being destroyed by aliens.
I meant Independence Day.
I'm sorry.
You know Harrison Ford, he was in it, wasn't he, Independence Day? Harrison Ford.
Was he?
Was the US president in Independence Day, and that's the one I meant.
Which one? The first one?
Well, there's only one Independence Day.
Oh, I thought you said it was a sequel.
This is the sequel. This is what I'm talking about. That's why they blew up Singapore.
You're saying Harrison
they'd
Ford
already
was in
blown
it?
up Washington. No, Harrison Ford was in the first one.
No, he
you
wasn't.
fool.
He was not.
Follow the plot. Yeah, he was.
No, he wasn't.
He was in Independence Day.
It was Bill Pullman who played the president.
Just get on with it.
You know, we will call this our Independence Day. Question number 7. Now, this is going to require a very, very great deal of communication and a great deal of concentration.
Okay.
What is in a Singapore gin sling? And I mean everything.
Singapore gin sling.
Well, you've drunk many of them at raffles, right?
I have indeed.
In fact,
yes.
Mr. Alan Brazil, I believe, holds the record for drinking 33 of them, doesn't he?
What, in raffles?
Yeah. They gave him a certificate.
Did they? Okay.
For
Now,
not
Singapore,
keeling over.
Gin, well, there's gin.
Gin, correct.
What they call that stuff that's bitter? Bitters.
Bitters, yes, you got that. Yeah,
right,
that's
gin,
right.
Bitters.
Yeah.
Ice.
Ice, that's not
Right,
included,
gin,
but that's true.
Gin, bitters, ice, Singapore sling,
Yeah.
gin. I'll tell you what else is in it.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, I know.
Come on then, let's go. We've
We've
got all day.
Yeah, okay. I would say...
Yeah.
Because there's variation. You can have variation.
No, there's only one Singapore gin sling.
Singapore gin sling.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to hurry
Martini. Martini?
No.
There's martini.
There
There's a bit of martini.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
No,
Well,
there isn't.
hang on.
You're never going to get this.
No.
You've only got two.
Anna something. Annie Chiber, is
Anisette?
it? Anisette?
No.
No, that's
No, that's not
Anisette.
it.
No. Annie
No.
Chibers?
Annie what?
Something like that? No?
Annie, get your gun.
No, Annie, you gone. Well, I say that.
All right, let me give you the
it.
full list. You've got that wrong, okay?
Right.
It is gin, sherry brandy, Cointreau, Benedictine, grenadine, pineapple juice, lime juice, and Angostura bitters.
Utter rubbish.
So you got that completely
No,
wrong.
no.
Question number 8.
Yeah.
How far is Singapore from London?
Singapore
I'll
from
take
London.
your answer in miles.
Okay, in miles.
Yeah.
Let me see. In miles, it is. It's 7,422 miles.
Incorrect.
No,
It's 6,747.
that's close.
It's not that bad.
It's pretty close.
It's not bad, but
Pretty
it's more
close.
than 500 miles out. Question
Well,
number
I
9.
should get still half a point.
No, you don't get
I
half
think
a
I
point.
should.
No.
I think I should.
Who is known as the founding father of modern Singapore? And I'll give you a clue. It's not Dave Marshall.
It's not Dave Marshall. It is, of course,
Yeah.
Sir Thomas Stafford Raffles.
Incorrect.
No, it's not.
No, that's not right.
It is.
It's Lee Kuan Yew, who was the president of Singapore for a very long time.
No, rubbish.
Yes, he was.
Rubbish.
But luckily-
in 1819, Raffles landed and made it a British protectorate.
Luckily for you,
Yes.
yeah, but that doesn't make him the founding father of modern Singapore.
Right.
That makes him the founding father of the old Singapore. Luckily for you,
Yeah.
question number 10 is about Stanford Raffles.
Oh, right, okay.
Where was Stanford Raffles born?
Where was he born?
Yeah.
Where was he born? He was born in India. No, Malaysia,
Incorrect.
maybe. Malaysia. No?
No. He was born off the coast of Jamaica, funnily enough, in
Off
1781.
the coast of Jamaica?
Yeah, on a boat.
What?
On a boat off the coast of
Ridiculous
Jamaica.
question, honestly.
You've got
Load of
one.
rubbish
You've got
questions.
1.5 out of 10. That is an absolutely shocking
Well,
performance.
they're such stupid questions.
If you didn't watch it already, you can see that on Periscope, on the Talk Radio Twitter account. We've also retweeted it on the Two Mics as
I
well.
should have got another half point for the
Well,
distance.
No, but I've only given you 2
I
out of 10.
I got the time zone right.
No, you didn't. You said 7. You said 8 hours. It was
come
7.
On. Oh, come on. I mean, that was within 12
Well,
miles.
I'll tell you what. If you're going for a plane and
Yeah.
you get it out right,
Yeah.
miss it out by an hour, you miss the plane.
No, you don't, because you'd probably go to the airport 3 or 4 hours before the flight.
I see.
So you wouldn't miss the plane.
Anyway, well done.
Thank
1.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
Absolute
rubbish.
shambles.
Rubbish questions again.
That was, of course, the Porky quiz.
Woo, 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 woo. Woo, 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 woo.
That sounds quite good, actually.
That was pretty good.
Who let
wasn't
the
it?
dogs out? A bit of barking from you.
You know,
there'll be a lot of barking from you coming up at the end of next week, won't there?
Do you
When
know
the show
where
goes barking mad.
Yeah, they will go barking mad. Do you know where that became famous? That song.
It was the Beckham story, wasn't it?
The posh Spice and
Yeah.
the Spice Girls were some sort of showbiz do or something, and I think it was Katie Price.
It
who
was
walked in
Katie
the room.
Price, yeah.
And all of a sudden, because they're singers, they
Yeah.
started singing "Who Let the Dog Out"
Yeah.
as a sort of insult to
Shocking, really.
a fellow performer, so to speak. Yeah.
Now, how about this from Paul Flanagan? He says, "I'm an
Yes.
expert on Singapore. I think not. 1.5 out of 10. Absolute shambles."
Well, there's such stupid questions. I
Well,
can't help it.
I thought they were quite interesting questions.
They were rubbish questions.
Wardy
all of
says, "Is Mike Parry going to respond to every question on Singapore?" What, in Singapore?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's not something we do very often, is it? To talk about foreign
Well,
qualities.
that's true.
You know what I mean?
Luke says Dave Marshall is an excellent traditional Singaporean name. A couple of people have actually asked who he is, because Davey says, after the quiz, can that plank please explain who Dave Marshall is?
No,
Otherwise, I won't sleep properly
I
tonight.
think there was a Dave Marshall who got involved somewhere in the development of Singapore.
You're
somewhere
absolutely
along the
right.
way.
I can tell you,
Yeah, go on.
because Lee has told us
Yeah.
that Dave Marshall was the leader of Singapore in 1956.
Was he? Well, there you go.
Only
you see.
61 years out.
Well, there you go. But it shows I've been studying my journals on Singapore.
You've got to
so
be confused, obviously.
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, then.
And then one from Chris who says, you could have asked Porky to spell Singapore and he wouldn't have had a Scooby.
Oh, yeah, that's
He's
very
just
nice,
giving
isn't it?
planks a bad name.
Yeah, I don't think that's very kind
That is
at
a
all.
bit harsh. If you haven't watched it, though, you can go
Yep.
to the Talk Radio Twitter page
Yep.
and you can have a look at the Periscoped live
Yes.
quiz performance by Porky,
That's
which
right.
is also on our Twitter as well, at the Two Mics.
That's right. Now then, we talked a bit earlier, but we haven't really gone back on it, about sitting at the desk nearest to the boss. I hope it all rubs off on
Yes.
you. Hey?
That's a great story, actually.
A study has found...
And this is a proper study coming out of Harvard.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
out of the Harvard Business Review.
That's right.
This is actually out of Harvard University.
But the study has found that just being close to good workers can improve your own performance to the extent that clever seating plans could raise a company's productivity by 15%.
Well, do you know, I'll tell you where I believe this story actually is not only true, but can be proven to be true.
Yes.
It's not so much in the positive bit, but in the negative bit, when they say if you've got a toxic employee,
Absolutely.
that can really affect the entire room, and you need to get rid of those people as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. It says, if hard work is contagious, so is the reverse. Toxic employees drag down their neighbours, and it's better to sack them before the rot sets in. Now, that might be very applicable to the Tottenham Hotspur dressing room at the moment.
Oh, yes.
Because, of course, they're having a bit of a rebellion within their ranks when it's, now become very, very publicly obvious
it's
that
a bit
their
more difficult,
players
though.
are very underpaid compared to teams that finished below them in the Premier League last season.
Well, I think in a business scenario, it's slightly different from a dressing room scenario, though, because obviously if you're talking about...
thing.
Yeah, no, because if you're talking about a football team, though, you're kind of much, much closer together. You're maybe working all much closer together than you would be.
Well, what about
say,
the
if you're
BBC situation? Now, they've revealed all their salaries. There's a rebellion there.
Well, there's a rebellion, but we're not necessarily talking about... I mean, if you were working at the BBC, are you saying that you would want to sit next to Chris Evans because he's the star of the show?
Not really.
Would you rather sit next to somebody who was moaning about Chris Evans?
No, I wouldn't want to sit next to anybody who moans.
What about your mate Jeremy Vine? Are you going to sit next to him?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Well, he's doing all right. At 722,000 or something. That's not bad, is it?
Well, that's pretty good money if you're earning it for not doing very much.
I think the toxic thing is actually more important than the positive thing, because a toxic employee drags everybody down.
Yes.
Moaning, whinging, undermining, trying to destabilise the bosses.
And
the
there's always
managers
been in every place you've ever worked.
Everywhere you've ever
There's always been somebody who's kind of whispering in your ear, telling you something bad about somebody else.
That's right, yeah.
Making sure that everything is negative rather than positive.
Exactly,
Professor Dylan Miner, who is from Harvard, I believe, says the negative performance of these workers spills over to fellow workers, right? It brings down everybody else.
Yeah.
However, he says the good news is basically once you get rid of them, the effect vanishes within a month or so of no longer being exposed to the toxic worker.
That's right. Now, that's a very positive point. This is another positive point on the upside. The study found that good attributes rubbed off on nearby colleagues, especially if they were good in complementary areas. So putting someone who was highly productive but produced average work beside someone who did less work but produced higher quality results led to improvements in both.
Oh, yeah.
The quality of the fast worker's output increased, as did the speed of the new neighbour. Now, what they're saying here is this is not so much an individual seeking to sit near somebody who's better than them.
Right.
It's a manager saying, if I team those two together at opposite desks, they might actually complement each other and get better.
That's true.
So this is good man management.
Seating arrangements
it's vital in any company.
Have always caused problems, haven't they? Because we've all been in situations where certain people will seek to sit closer to the boss.
Yes.
Say, for example, not necessarily the most able worker, but say sit outside the boss's office, for example, because they think that they'll then have more sort of social intercourse with the boss.
Maybe.
And that they'll get noticed.
Yes.
Whereas other people would prefer to sit much further away from the boss.
That's right.
I mean, certainly it was the case in newspapers where a lot of sub-editors, who are the people, for those who don't know, who kind of make sure that all the copy fits and they double check
page,
it. And they don't tend to go out and get stories. They tend to be more in the production side.
Well, they are totally in production.
A lot of them are sort of quite antisocial people.
Yeah, they are.
And quite often they'd like to sit as far away as possible from the back bench, which is where I used to work, which is where you tell them what they're doing.
Yes.
And the ones who were as far away as possible were the ones that often were the most kind of, shall we say, recalcitrant
That's
types.
Right.
Because they didn't wish to be anywhere near the seat of power.
Yeah, and they didn't want any responsibility or be given any work.
Actually, no, it wasn't so much. Some of them were like that.
Yeah.
Others were a bit more sort of rebellious.
Yes.
And they wouldn't want to be told how to do it.
Yeah.
They just want to be left alone.
Want to get on with it.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, newspapers were so overstaffed when we first started working in them that the buildings were so big.
Yeah.
Some people
would just disappear.
Some people never produced a story in 3 weeks.
No.
And on one occasion, I remember, somebody very important in the company walking round, spotting somebody, said I thought he'd left about 2 years ago because I didn't remember seeing it in the paper.
Well, I mean,
and it's true, those sort of things used to happen.
You started earlier than I did on the Express, but even when I came back from America, there were still, I think, 27 reporters
something like that.
on the Daily Express.
Well,
and many of whom at any given time were either off on holiday or on a day off.
Or on the 4-day week.
Well, no, they were on a 4-day, that's what I mean. I mean, three days out of the 4, they didn't work.
Or, believe it or not, we're taking a month's sabbatical for having worked for 5 years.
That's right.
And one guy, when I started in Manchester, right, they said, they introduced me. They said, of course, Paul's not here. I said, Paul, because we had about 12 reporters in Manchester.
Right.
And he said, oh, no, he's on his sabbatical. I said, what? What's a sabbatical? He said, oh, well, when you've worked here 5 years, young Parry, you'll get a month off.
Right.
Free. What? Yeah, they give you a month
Yeah, they give you a month off, but they pay you.
Yeah, they pay you. And I said, and so what's Paul doing then? Is he in the Bahamas or the Caribbean? No. He's a conscientious lad. He's spending a month going out with a country vet.
Oh, yeah.
Helping him to, deliver sheep.
But,
and
as you've talked
that.
about on our other podcasts that we do on the record, many of these guys would use the month off to go and work in America.
Yeah, of course they would, yeah.
And so they'd actually get paid double.
They were charlatans to
Incredible.
a T. The only thing I used to talk about was, oh, well, now, how are you, young Parry? How old are you? I said, you've just got time. I said, what for? To get your 40 years in. I said, what do I want to get me 40 years in
40 years
for?
in the same place.
He said, if you work 40 years, you can retire with a pension of 2/3 your final salary.
Yeah.
And I said, is that what you lot are aiming for? He said,
Yeah.
no, aye. He said, I'm 23 years into it already.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It was unbelievable.
Absolutely shocking. Now, we've
Yes.
got loads of other stories that we never got to.
Yes.
We'll just have to hold on to them
We
until
will.
next week because we are now in the company of Yasmin Khan, who's taking over. Yasmin, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, gents. Nice to meet you.
Very nice,
nice to see you as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've met before, have we not?
Passed in the corridor.
Yeah, possibly so.
Ships in the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Something
think
like
it
that.
wasn't that kind of meeting, no.
I hope not.
No, I think I'd have remembered. I'm sure I would have done. What have you got coming up?
Made a note of it somewhere.
Somewhere, yes.
Somewhere along the line. It's a really strange time because, as you know, in the business of news, summer goes a bit,
Does go a bit
odd.
flat, doesn't it?
Goes a bit odd. However, it is silly season, and in the midst of this, we find ourselves talking about whether or not there's going to be a nuclear attack.
Yes.
So
World War III does stiffen the resolve. doesn't
yeah, it sort of darkened things a little bit. So we're going to be finding out the latest on the situation that's heating up is almost an understatement, isn't it, between Trump and North Korea?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of sizzling, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And let's hope it doesn't sizzle any further. But we'll try and get to the heart of sort of why it happened, where we're at now, and possibly what next.
Well, where it
happens
goes is more important.
Where
really,
it goes,
isn't it?
yeah. Also, closer to home, we're going to be looking into this issue that the former head of MI5 said, which is there is a threat from Islamist terrorism for the next really 20 to 30 years. So if that's the case, what can we do to combat it?
Yeah.
So we're looking at that.
And how's it going to come at you as well? Because they keep sort of changing it, don't they?
They do.
I must admit, I was up at Borough Market yesterday after our show finished, and there had
Yeah.
been some kind of chemical incident up there.
Yeah.
Feng Sushi, which is a restaurant just round the corner from the Wheat Sheaf
Yes.
pub, had something delivered to it in which there
was a dodgy
chemical
substance,
of some kind. 3 people were taken to hospital, and I went up there just because I thought, I wonder what it's going to be like. And actually, it was very calm. They'd roped off the front of the restaurant, a couple of police officers. Everything else in Borough Market was open. Everyone was wandering around quite happily. There was, and I think almost a year ago, if that had happened, they'd have shut off the whole place.
Yeah.
And I think we're now getting just more used to dealing with things like that.
There's a horrible sense of we're becoming more efficient at it, certainly at dealing with it. But there's also, sadly, a normalisation in some ways.
Yes.
So we're going to look at that. And also, again, closer to home, what is happening with this Grenfell money? I mean, I
why
don't
is that not being
understand
handed out?
where there's a hold-up. Is it admin? Is it something a bit darker than that? We'll find out. So we're going to find out about that. On a lighter note, it is August. I was at an ice cream van yesterday and I saw something rather strange. And it made me think about ice cream vans and the business of ice cream vans and whether or not they're doing well. Because in the face of things like, gelato and all this fancy stuff you can get in the supermarket, who is still going to an ice cream van? So
Me. I love them. I love a
do you
whippy.
like a whippy?
Oh, I love a Mr. Whippy. I tell you, I live down on the coast, and I love the chimes of the ice cream van. I
When
love
was
to
the
go
last
along
time
there,
you ran after
and
an
I
ice
love
cream van?
stuffing it in my mouth.
But do you push the kids out of the way to get to the front of the queue?
He does, yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that. I just reach over them because they're smaller than me.
Yeah.
The only
Not
part.
many, not much, though.
I was going to say the only part of the population that is.
Harsh.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to talk to a guy who's been selling ice creams for over 40 years.
Brilliant.
And also, we've got the Reverend Richard Coles on, the latest contestant from Strictly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Yasmin Khan coming up right after the news at 4 o'clock with the 2 mics.
Woo, woo. Talk Radio.